Well, let me tell you something, guys. I plan to not fail the outro tonight, so it's a good goddamn guarantee that I'm gonna fucking fail the intro. We set this up. We had it going in motion. I was supposed to start Fight's input up. And here I am, because they're the same science or satire animated logos that we're using. We use the same one. The input wasn't him. It was just my logo playing over and over. So that's why you didn't see the whole animation. But I guarantee you, you want to stick around until tonight, because tonight I will not be failing the outro. This is a guarantee. Mark my fucking words right fucking now. Now, we have a good show for you guys tonight.
I'm going to place a bet that you'll fail your intro.
Yeah, fuck off.
I fail your outro, sorry. You're definitely going to fail.
Yeah, fuck off. This is not happening tonight. We are not failing intros and outros or anything.
Team, you can even fail outros on my channel that I'm doing.
Right. Okay, well, for whatever reason, I think... Oh, PhD Tony, he did make it. Good deal, good deal. All right, so let's introduce everybody that we have on the stage tonight. We have, of course, my partner in crime, Fight the Flat Earth. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good. I had a nice debate last night, which, if you haven't seen the title, guys, it is titled The Easiest Debate Win I've Ever Had, because basically his argument was, that's not real. Even when I showed him this image, right, the two globes. You want to put me up a sec, team?
Oh, yeah, give me 1 second. All right. Go ahead.
So I showed him this image of two globes because he said, "Oh, NASA images are fake. You know, the continents always look different sizes." So I showed him this of the same globe, two different distances away that Tommy Gonfield did, and his only answer to that was, "You faked it."
Oh, that was last night's guy,
yeah.
right? Bass Kelly.
Yeah.
He's
Bass Kelly. Yeah.
He's a moron. He's an absolute fucking moron.
Real bad. He's coming back on tomorrow for round 2, though.
Yes, that'd be great. That'd be great. Now, let me kick it over to the other globe earther. How you doing tonight, Mr. PhD Tony? How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thank you for asking.
Good, good. No, I'm sorry, Tony. I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep talking, please. And hey, let me commend you extremely right now on your mannequin challenge. Your mannequin challenge is beyond good. I mean, the best one I've ever seen. Holding that pose without... There you go. Now you broke the pose.
Yes, I'm a technical genius, but let no one say otherwise. So thank you, and a pleasure to be here. I'll just roast over here in embarrassment. My apologies for everything.
Oh, no, great. I'm glad you're here.
I briefly caught your live stream earlier, Tony. I was busy with the kids, but I briefly tuned into your Four Beardmen stream. That was quite a laugh.
Thank you. Well, it's easy. I'm not sure if you've heard Irish Demon's anecdote about going to his wife's work toilet. But if you didn't catch that, do catch up with it because it's well worth it.
Yes, anyway. It was great. It was great. Now, let me kick it over to the flat earthers we have here tonight. We have a regular flat earther over the past couple of months, I guess, or weeks, really. Keith, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Doing great. Doing great. Ready to teach you a little bit about science tonight. All right, and then we also have Rachie. Rachie, how are you doing tonight?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Great, great. Now we've had some interactions on my channel. I believe we had some interactions on Fight's channel, I think, too, and also a few interactions in the chat. And I want to say that you have been an absolutely lovely flat earther. You have not been hateful. You have actually engaged in conversation, and I do appreciate that. And I did want to take the time out before we got started tonight, before I started yelling at you about physics and all this other stuff, that I do appreciate you and how you like carry yourself in the chat outside of being online. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Just
Thank you
beware
for
if
that.
Team acts like a dick. He can't help it. It's part of who he is.
Now,
I just want to chime in that I said that I was going to be talking to Rachie last night on the Four Bidsmen, and everybody was going, "Oh, she's such a sweetheart." So you have a lot of fans, Rachie. That's all I wanted to say.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
thanks for letting me know.
you also have 3 people here that are each holding out a hand, trying to walk you away from that cliff that you're standing on that is known as the flat Earth. Hopefully today we can get you a few more steps back into reality, but that's a stretch. We're going to work on it, okay? Now, I have a couple of announcements. Number 1, with YouTube, there has been these problems with live streams. Some of the live streams are taking like days to actually process for the full live stream. So moving forward, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going every time we have a live stream, and you'll see why at the end of this, okay? I have a good reason for doing this. But at the end of the live streams, I'm just not going to post these live streams to my channel. I'm actually going to move them over to my Team Skeptic gaming channel. It's called Team Skeptic After Dark. You'll be able to find the full live streams as uploads instead of like the like replay of it. I'll try to do my best to keep the chat involved in it, like to keep the chat. I think there's a way that I can do that. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll figure something out. But at the same time,
Reds has got a program that he uses.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely need to get that. But at the same time, the live streams aren't going anywhere. Like, we'll keep doing live streams here. They're not going to be over there. The gaming channel's for gaming content. I have a great time. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. The link is in the description. If you haven't subscribed already to my gaming channel, please go do so. We have a good time. Ask Tony. Tony will tell you. He comes in there, harasses me all the time. It's hilarious. I let you guys control my lights just with simple commands out of the chat. See, that right there, you guys aren't hearing this, but there's a horn playing in my ear because somebody else is now subscribed to my channel. So every time one of you guys subscribe, you will see the police sirens and all that going off behind me. And yes, that's I hear a loud sound in my ear, even if you guys don't hear it. Now, a couple of things. So
basically, you don't care about people with epilepsy, is what you're saying.
I wouldn't go so far as to say I don't care, but I don't. No. I don't.
Fun fact: only 2% of epileptic episodes are caused by visual stimuli.
All right. So, I do want to say this. I went last night. I hung out with Johnny at the plot hole, and I also hung out with J.L. Warren. I also hung out with J.L. Warren over at the plot hole's house. We had our dinner. We kind of get a Dallas thing going together where we have dinner and everything. And he finally sent me this. I told him I would try this as a challenge because he did this hot wing challenge, and I'm gonna eat some Vegemite. Now, I'm not doing it tonight, and there's a good reason why I'm not doing it tonight. Because last night when I was over at their house, I ended up eating some Carolina Reaper Creeper sauce. I think is what it's called. Now, it wasn't that hot on my mouth, but god damn it, if today
the problem
I don't
is when
feel
he put
like,
it in his bum.
Oh my god, I'm not even sure the whole rest of the dinner has gone through my system yet, but it's fire down there, guys. I mean, it's fire. I have tried to stick my head down there and blow on it just to cool it down. I mean, it feels like it feels like a runny nose right now, and it's all pain. And it was 100% from the Reaper Creeper sauce that we ate last night. But it tasted good. I didn't mind the taste of it so bad. It was just simply the fact that it was fucking horrendously hot on my bum hole right now. Also, Irish Demon, he sent us not just this Vegemite, but he also sent me this cool NASA beanie, which I'm going to wear as long as it doesn't get too hot. And a couple other things. I'll get to those. He wrote me he sent me some shitty Irish tea, and he also sent me a note that starts out with, Dear Dickweed. So I will have to read that. I will have to read that note out to you guys one day, but mad props to Irish Demon for sending us all this. Mad props for him doing the Carolina Reaper Challenge himself. And let's get this fucking show started. How do you want to start this fight? You want to just let them have the floor and kind of we'll turn it over. You said you have some old world physics books. Is that correct, Keith?
It was a what is that? It's World Book Encyclopedia, old school, back in the 90s.
Oh,
Okay.
One of them.
oh, yep.
Okay, so let's start out with that. I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's start out with that, Keith.
I mean, basically, I was just kind of.
Oh, go ahead.
Before Keith gets into his argument, he was talking about Mark Sargent in the pre-show there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Just quickly show him the video.
Yes, so Keith was talking about Mark Sargent and a few other flat earthers, and we were trying to tell him about Mark Sargent's little routine, his little commercial that he was in. So let us play that for you, Keith, so you can kind of see what you're dealing with here.
You want to put me full?
Yeah, it's there.
There we go.
Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right. With Sportsbet's new iPhone app.
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. Sportsbet's new iPhone app. It's proof.
There's no way in hell that dude believes the Earth is flat. No.
It was like he was having fun with it.
I had no idea that he was actually a flat earther. So I saw that ad and I thought they'd just gotten an actor in. Yeah. It didn't occur just because it is so mercilessly. And that's one version of the ad. There are actually other versions of the ad. They basically catalogue a list of claims that flat earthers make, and he gives some potted, very silly answer. It's hard for me to accept that he's taking it all seriously. But I'm not inside his head, so that would be just a guess.
Yeah.
And before we kick it back to Keith team, do we have permission to activate Vicky mode on Gary Webenenga?
Yes. Well, Gary, I unblocked him because someone unfairly blocked him. So what we're going to do is if Gary's not willing to provide any proof, you guys can have as much fun as you want with him. But if he's not being an ass or not being a dick, y'all just have fun, enjoy trolling him. You can troll him just as much.
No banning.
Yeah, no banning whatsoever unless he says some hateful shit. But Keith, I do want to turn it over to you and let you have the floor right now. If there's anything at all that you want to talk about out of this encyclopedia, let's hear it, man.
I mean, I was basically just looking over some of the formulas, checking out, all of the, density formulas and all that. Just basic overview. I haven't really gotten into it full depth yet, but I'm just letting you know.
Okay. Well, that's I just want to say that is the perfect way to start, right? So a knowledge base, science works by building on what others have done and sort of adding your own layer if you're an active scientist. And knowledge is kind of the same way. You acquire layers of knowledge. So rather than leaping straight into trying to do quantum physics or whatever, you need to start with basic mechanics and that sort of thing. So that's a really good. And I was impressed by that from the first debate we had, even though I got sort of a little bit hot under the collar there. But your willingness, you said you wanted to learn some physics and wanted to apply yourself to learning, and that is just really valuable because I can sit here and spout stuff to you, but really, you going out and learning is where it's at. That's where you need to be.
Keith,
I finished, so.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh.
Okay.
So where do you want to start, Keith or Rachie? Where do either one of you guys want to start tonight? We'll turn it over to you guys. What is your biggest your number one proof, or your number one proof that the Earth is flat, or your number one question as to why we believe that the Earth is a globe, or how we know that the Earth is a globe is a better way of putting that.
You got it, Rachie.
I haven't actually been looking into it that long, so I don't know all the points of flat Earth and everything. But there's more points which make me question whether it could be a globe based on certain pictures and things like that.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead,
can I actually raise a point? So one of the common claims that's made in the flat Earth community is that there's no such thing as gravity. Mass doesn't attract mass. Is this something that you guys subscribe to?
I subscribe to, there's a possibly a 9.8 meters per second squared down, but I haven't actually seen any test done where they actually time it to actually prove that it is done during that,
Right.
that it is 9.8 meters per second. But if there is, which obviously they do fall at the same rate in a vacuum, then...
I remember from high school physics doing, deriving, the gravitational acceleration from dropping something and then seeing how, fast it drops over the certain areas. And, you can calculate from, marks that something would make as it's falling down to figure out what the gravitational acceleration is. That 9.8 meters per second squared is always there, and it's measurable, calculable.
Yeah, the point I would suggest there, Craig, is that not everybody does high school physics. You can get through high school doing biology or doing other subjects. So you can get through without having done this experiment. But it is one of the more basic experiments that is done. And in fact, there are things called gravimeters. And at the mineral companies use these. What they consist of essentially is a weight on a spring, and the extension of the spring changes when you move the weight around, and that's because our understanding of it is that there's a different force being applied to that weight. The weight itself stays the same; it's the same reference weight all the time, but there's a different force being applied as you move it around. And some places there's a stronger force, and in some places there's a weaker force. And when I say we, the scientific community say, okay, now we think that that's due to different masses put underneath Earth's surface pulling on that weight. And if we use Newton's law of gravity, that mass G times m1 times m2 over r squared, we can work out where these density anomalies are underneath Earth's surface, and we can tell the mineral companies, and the mineral companies say, okay, so I know if I want to find an ore body, I can dig in this particular spot and I'll find some minerals. And so there is this mineral, it's called gravimetric mineral exploration, and it's a way that mineral companies use to work out where they should be drilling to get minerals, and it works. They find mineral deposits that way. Now, if mass didn't attract mass, it seems a bit weird that would work, doesn't it?
Well, Tony, let me ask you this: is that 100% or like 80%, 90% in effectiveness in finding the ores?
Well, there has to be an ore there, but it will 100% identify density anomalies, so it's 100% accurate in identifying a density.
People pay Tony a lot of money to do it.
Well, they don't pay me. I'm an academic rather than in exploration, but they pay. So I am paid, however, to do different forms of gravimetric observation. So we have a very high precision gravimeter, and it can detect gravity anomalies due to a high pressure system moving overhead. If there's a high pressure system moving overhead and the air pressure goes up, the gravimeter is sensitive enough that it can detect that. It can feel the gravitational pull of the air overhead. You aren't going to be aware of this, but every day, your house, everything you can see, you go upwards by about a foot and downwards by about a foot because of the what are called solid earth tides. So the same way that there's a tide in the ocean, there's also a tide in the solid earth, and the gravimeter can detect that as well. So they're just really, really sensitive. The sensitivity of these gravimeters is more extreme than anybody, than any reasonable person might expect. The stuff that you can detect with this stuff is really, really impressive. There's a lot of actual science and exploration that goes on by detailed analysis of Earth's gravitational field, and I mean the average person doesn't know this because why would the average person care, right? It doesn't impact them. So it's only really nerdy science sciencey types like myself who are aware of this sort of thing. And I feel like flat earthers kind of exploit the fact that this information isn't getting out to people. But I just want to get back to Keith's question, which is actually a good one. The density, there's a limit on the resolution that you can achieve with the field gravimeters, because they rely on being moved around, so they're a lot less precise than the superconducting ones. And so there's a limit on the size of the density anomaly, how close it needs to be to the surface. But they are very accurate techniques for determining the location of subsurface density anomalies. More than 98% accurate. So.
I learned something new every day, Tony. That was amazing. So I'm going to need to know more about these solid Earth tides eventually. So
yeah,
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, this is. I
feel like we should let.
I'm sorry.
So let's just say that I feel like we should let Rachel or Keith respond to that a little bit. There was quite a lot of information there. So
you can go first,
Rachel. How does your you have a lot of you've done some calculations and stuff around buoyancy and density. How does the calculations explain what Tony has just described?
Well, for the gravimeters changing, for the, like when he says the air changes above the mountain, so it changes the gravity, like the thing on the gravimeter, I'd say that's just like obviously depending on how many molecules or particles are above it. So the more particles, the more weight, so the more force, if you like.
Well,
how would it
is worth bearing in mind that it is worth bearing in mind that superconducting gravimeter is uses liquid helium to freeze the air out of the chamber, so there's no air in the chamber with the sensor. So it's kept at 11 Kelvin. Very close to absolute zero, and it freezes out. And even the ones, sort of the more reliable ones, they evacuate the chamber as well. They try and keep it isolated from air because that might throw off the calculations. So, the system is isolated from the atmosphere. There's no way for the density of the material around it to sort of impact on the motion, according to the traditional understanding. Craig's got a nice diagram of what's going on with the gravimeter over there. So that's what's going.
Yeah. And let me go ahead and interject just 1 second, because there's what Tony's talking about is a very sophisticated piece of machine that you actually have in your phone. We all have accelerometers in our phone, and this is exactly what he's talking about. The gravimeter is really just reading the acceleration that it's feeling. That's why I was saying when clouds pass, when dense clouds pass over, or dense or when the air pressure goes up, for instance, and there's more mass above you, these gravimeters are actually sensitive enough to read the acceleration that it's now feeling in that direction, because it only really feels one acceleration, which is a sum of all accelerations on it. So that's how they know where these minerals are on the ground, because they can actually go and with several observations, they can form a 3D composite of where all the extra acceleration from, acceleration that they wouldn't normally be expecting if the Earth were solid. And at this point, they can really they know the density of the Earth at this point, that we're not talking about hundreds of miles down. This is only like, how deep do they go, Tony, with the gravimeters that you use?
It depends on, but only a few kilometers. So it's only the ore deposits that are within a few kilometers of the Earth's surface that are even remotely accessible to us.
But it's sensitive enough to be able to detect the density variations even over the limited distance that it is. Now what I'm showing on my screen at the moment is what Tim was talking about, is what's in a phone. And it's very similar to the gravimeters that Tony describes. These are called MEMS accelerators, and they're basically what you see on the screen. They're a mass that's on the screen. They're a mass that's attached to some springs, and based on the orientation of the phone, it will connect with the plates to allow the phone to tell which way it is orientated. And there's no way that density and and the buoyancy calculations that flat earthers give can explain what is happening in a basic phone accelerometer. There's more of these on the planet than there is people, and they all do the same thing, and that is use gravity to figure out what orientation they are in.
Now, here's an observation.
So that's how your phone knows to swap between portrait mode and landscape mode. When you turn your phone side on and it automatically changes the display, this is how it's doing that. So gravity is the direction of gravity is central.
Now, I want to point out also to you guys, to Rachie and Keith here, that when you have your accelerometer, let's say you have your phone, right, and you're holding it in your hand, and you have it reads acceleration on 3 axes. One is the up-down axis. Let's say your phone, right? So you have your phone. Get mine up here, okay. So you have your phone. You have an accelerometer reads in this axis, and this axis, okay? And this is what Tony was saying, is how when you turn your phone in different orientations, your phone knows exactly which orientation it's in because it's resting within a gravitational field in some kind of three-dimensional shape, in some kind of three-dimensional orientation. And because it knows the gravitational field, it can use the pull of gravity to determine what the orientation of the phone is. Now, what you can do with your phone, you can screen record. Everybody knows how to screen record their phone these days, right? So go in there and get an accelerometer and hold your phone up, go on top of a bed or something where you're not going to break your phone. You hold your phone up and you'll have an have a reading that's directly down at roughly 10, we'll just say 10 meters per second squared, okay? Roughly down on 10 meters per second squared. So when you drop the phone and it falls, while it's falling, it's under only gravitational acceleration, but it feels within the reference frame, which is what Fight was showing earlier. That's considered a reference frame there. Within the reference frame, it feels 2 accelerations. It feels 1 acceleration, and we can explain this acceleration. You'll understand this when I say when you accelerate in a car, you feel that pull backwards, right? Any object that requires acceleration always feels this acceleration in the other direction. It's a resistance to acceleration. It's called an inertial force. All right. So what happens when you drop your phone? You have gravity, which is present in the down direction, but the acceleration of the phone down, the physical acceleration of the phone down, then gives an opposite acceleration felt on that reference frame within the phone in the opposite direction. And because it's 10 meters per second squared down and it's falling at 10 meters per second squared, you're going to get a reading of 10 meters per second squared up. Okay, now those two together, if gravity is real, then you should say those two together should equal 0. So what you can do, Keith, is you could put that accelerometer on your phone, go get the screen recorder, record the screen, drop it on top of a pillow, a bed, or whatever you want. Go back and look at the data in the phone and see what your phone read while it was accelerating towards the ground. If the phone reads 0, then you have to accept the fact that something else is there. Some other force is there pulling that phone to the ground. We call it gravity. You call it whatever you want.
Okay, let me throw this at you. Is it possible that when it comes to, the acceleration, how fast it falls down, can we not say that that's what happens within the medium of air?
Well, except that things fall in any medium or in any lack of medium. These forces persist in vacuums. Their magnitude is the same regardless of the pressure of the air, or if you change to a different gas, if you change to, you do have to consider air resistance effects that do resist motion through the atmosphere. But once you've corrected for those, these accelerations apply regardless of the medium, and they apply with sort of a similar magnitude, the same magnitude, regardless of the medium that you're in. So it's not a possibility that you can instantaneously rule out, but the body of observations we have suggests that the downward force is pretty much independent of the density of the medium that it's in. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, the when you're talking about gravity, the easiest way to understand why all things fall at the same rate is to really break down the gravitational equation, which is big G times m1 m2 divided by r squared. So you also know that F equals ma. So if we say that any mass on Earth, okay, if we just leave m as any mass on Earth, okay, and then we say we want to find out what any mass on Earth is going to do within the gravitational field. And how we find that, how we get that acceleration is by multiplying the gravitational constant by the mass of the Earth divided by the radius squared in meters, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And that gives you acceleration. And we can test this. We can test this. Go ahead, Rachie.
But you know, when you say you drop your phone and then it reads 0, doesn't that mean there's no force acting on you?
That would be true if you didn't have the non-inertial acceleration force, the non-inertial force. Okay, so again, when I say that when you accelerate, you feel this force pulling you back. Okay, let's say we were to hold a lead ball, we were to attach a lead ball to the top of, grab my phone again. We attach a lead ball to the top of the roof of a car, right? Now, when this car is driving at a constant velocity of 60 miles an hour, that lead ball or we won't say lead, we'll say steel, because lead's dangerous. That steel ball, while it's hanging down, okay, if we're driving at a constant 60 miles per hour, or 30 miles per hour, or 100 miles per hour, or 1,000 miles per hour, that ball ain't gonna move. That ball's gonna stay right down there because it too is moving at a constant velocity. It's moving at 1,000 miles per hour. The string's moving at 1,000 miles per hour. The car's moving at 1,000 miles per hour. It's all moving at 1,000 miles per hour. In fact, if we blacked out the windows and let's say we had a perfectly smooth surface that we could not tell with bumps in the road or anything, we would not be able to tell how fast we were going or if we were at a standstill, if we weren't going any speed at all. Now, the moment you accelerate, what you'll notice is that ball will swing backwards because the ball wants to maintain its inertia. It does not want to change its velocity. It must have a force acting on it. So inside of this reference frame, we see a force that appears to push that ball backwards. That's the force that we're talking about. When you drop the phone, you have a force that appears to pull up that weight that gravity's pulling down. It pulls it up at the same time, but it only does that when the phone is actually free falling. So that's how you can test whether gravity is real or not. You can say, look, if I drop my phone, and let's say you were able to do this experiment with, we'll say like a couple of rocks to start, right? You go up 30 meters, you have a friend, and 10 meters, and you have a friend. You drop a rock, you measure the time, you see, boom, hits the ground at about 1 second. Okay, great. Let's test it again with a bigger rock. Okay, the bigger rock works too. Okay, let's test it with a pebble. Okay, the pebble works too. Okay, so now we can just say pretty much almost everything's going to fall at 10 meters per second squared roughly at the surface of the Earth. So you can go ahead and say that when I drop my phone, it starts out at 0 with no velocity whatsoever. Right now, it's frozen. It's not moving. The moment I drop the phone, it immediately begins accelerating at roughly 10 meters per second squared. Now, when we brought back this example and we said acceleration, that's how we know we're accelerating, because we do see these forces that act upon the reference frame. Your reference frame in here is going to have the force acting upon it in the opposite direction of gravity pulling it down. During that time, those two forces cancel each other out, and that's why you should have 0. Without the presence of gravity, you should see 9.8 meters per second squared in the opposite direction. Just like you would if you put this in a car and you started accelerating that way, on your accelerometer, you would see an accelerating force in the opposite direction.
So acceleration cancels out gravity?
Well,
No.
It doesn't cancel out gravity. It cancels out the reading of gravity, because the gravity causes a downward acceleration of 9 meters per second squared. So if you're traveling at 9.8 meters per second squared, you're not going to then feel that 9.8 meters per second squared because you're already traveling at it. So what we're talking about is the sum of all vectors, right? So it's not that gravity isn't there, it's the sum of the gravitational acceleration and the fact that the reference frame is moving cancels out to there being a register demonstrate some vector of 0. There's still gravity on it, that's why it's accelerating. But it's not then going to read another 9.8 meters per second squared, already accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared.
Yeah, so that just if I hold a glass, that glass isn't accelerating downwards, but that doesn't mean that gravity doesn't exist. Okay, that just means that there's another force that's being applied to it. So it is the sum of the forces. You know, it's the I am applying a force to hold this here, and that is sufficient to offset gravity. So if I stop doing that, then gravity's the only force, and the thing falls down. And it can't measure how quickly things fall because everything falls at the same rate. If one of the, I feel like we're a little bit handicapped here because one of the ways that would normally be done in a classroom, one of the experiments that would normally be done would be rolling a ball down a ramp and measuring how quickly the ball gets to the bottom of the ramp and how quickly it gets past the halfway point and that sort of thing. And then you can change the inclination of the ramp, and you can change the mass of the ball, and you can sort of, by doing these experiments and by doing these calculations, you can work out in quite a bit of detail what's going on with this ball, what force is being applied to it, and the characteristics of that force, and whether or not it depends on the density of the ball, whether or not it depends on the. So we're a little bit handicapped in that we're trying to explain to you purely in words something that is normally explained with sort of a large number of incrementally more complicated observations. So you start from very basic observations, and then you just slowly work your way up until you understand what's going on better. And this is what I was saying earlier about sort of building your knowledge base in small steps rather than leaping up to necessarily understanding superconducting gravimeters like I was trying to explain, or solid earth tides like I was trying to explain earlier. Can I ask I have an example. This is my go-to example of why density isn't the important element. Imagine that I've got a spring balance. So it's just the thing that they use in fish markets and that sort of thing. You just hang the weight on the bottom, and it tells you how much the stuff weighs. Are you guys familiar with those?
Yeah.
Rachie? Yep, okay.
Yeah.
So imagine I've got one of those, and I attach a disc of ice to it, right? And it's got a weight. It applies a downward force, okay? And then I let that ice melt, so it's going to turn so that it's going to just drip water off it, okay? The force on the spring is going to decrease because this thing is losing mass. But its density is not changing because it's ice. So its density is fixed. It's a constant density solid. It's just losing mass. So this example, do you agree that that is what happens if I describe it like that?
So you're saying it's measuring weight?
Yeah, it's measuring weight. Yeah, it's not measuring
but
density.
When it uses mass, this is why I say mass is weight, because as it's losing mass, it's losing weight.
Yes, but that feeds
mass
into
is
our
what,
argument.
It contains. Yeah.
So
there is a difference between mass and weight.
Weight is the downward
Tony,
force,
the
which is what the spring is measuring. Yep, and that is due to the mass of the object, but it's not due to the density of the object, right? So
For
that's
instance,
the distinction
you
that
could
I
take 2 kilograms.
no, density is mass divided by volume. It's the other way around.
All right,
and
one
you can
second.
do density times volume equals mass, can't you?
Right. So you can take a 2 kilogram weight. Okay. Well, it's a mass. Sorry, 2 kilograms. Grams is a measurement of mass, not weight. And you equator. That's still going to be 2 kilograms. And if you go to the poles, it's still going to be 2 kilograms. However, if you weigh 2 kilograms, what you'll find actually weighs more at the poles than it does at the equator. Even though the kilograms hasn't changed, it's still 2 kilograms of mass. The mass has a different weight based on the sum vector of all forces depending on where it is. It weighs less at the equator because it's slightly further away from the center of the Earth, and there is centrifugal force acting in the opposite direction. The mass didn't change, it stayed 2 kilograms, but there's about a 0.05% difference in weight depending on the equator and the poles. And that's because of the sum vector of all forces.
Yeah, so I just want to return to something that Raichi was saying, which is that mass is equal to density times volume. This equation holds, but mass is a fundamental quantity, and density is a derived quantity. Density is not a fundamental property of materials. You calculate an object's density based on its mass and its volume. And this is why, mass has fundamental units in kilograms, and density is kilograms per cubic meter. We don't regard density as the fundamental property. It is derived from observations of materials. It's derived from the value for the mass. And again, the downward force that is applied by that ice cube suspended from that balance beam, from that spring balance, is independent of its density. It's dependent on its mass. So that downward force is not density dependent.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a guy in the community called Mr. Sensible who did an example where he set up a simple balance beam. He set up a simple beam and he put a kilogram of shredded cheese on either end and arranged it so that they balanced. And then he came up and he grabbed one of the bags of shredded cheese and he just compressed it into a really tight ball. He changed its density. He made it much more dense than it had started out, and then he resumed, and it was still they still balanced because it's mass that's important. Density doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think within the community we tend to say density. I think it's more associated with mass. But yeah, I mean, I'm just letting you know about that. But I understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah, I mean. And it is, sort of a lot of what I think is the confusion here is that there is a lot of effort that goes on in the flat Earth community to kind of reconstruct normal physics just using different terminology. So yes, obviously mass is important when you're weighing something, and so you have to explain that. But there is somehow it turns out that density is the ultimate factor in how fast things fall. And this is why we generally start with a ball and a ramp, because the resistance of the medium is going to slow down the acceleration significantly. Then you have to start using more complicated formulations about what's going on. For heavier objects, we can neglect air resistance, we can neglect that sort of thing. But once the resistance of the medium becomes important, then calculating the balance of forces becomes a more complicated project. And you need to take cross-sectional area and the viscosity of the medium and all sorts of things into account. And generally, we leave that out when we're talking about basic levels of physical science, because they're really, really complicated and the formulas get messy. But that doesn't mean we're neglecting them. When you say look, objects can be slowed down significantly depending on the medium that they're in, that is exactly true. But it's not so much density, it's a matter of the cross-sectional area of the falling object and the ability of the medium to get out of the way. Those, and whether for some objects, there are pressure gradients across the object, and the pressure gradient at the bottom of the object is a lot higher than the pressure value at the bottom of the object is a lot higher than the pressure value at the top of the object. Therefore, the air pressure pushes the object up. It has enough energy to accelerate an object upwards, and that's what's happening with a helium balloon, for instance. It's not that gravity isn't trying to pull the helium balloon down. It's just that there are other forces that are applying an upward thrust on that helium balloon, But those are, and while we see that happen every day, we see smoke go upwards, we see balloons go upwards, we see feathers don't fall at the same rate as bricks. We see that every day, but what's going on there is actually a bit more complicated, and so we try and start with the simpler formulation of gravity rather than go into a straight, here are the cross-sectional errors. And obviously, feathers are designed. But designed is the wrong word, but they have evolved so that they are very effective at applying downward thrust for a bird. So they are designed to actually catch air efficiently and not let air flow past. The feathers versus bricks discussion is a bit more complicated.
But team, I feel like we should.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
I agree with you, Tony, but
okay. Yeah, Sean Hufford. Are you there?
I'm always here.
Hey, what's up, Sean? How you doing tonight, sir?
Not much.
All the time.
More than you would like to know.
Now,
oh shit,
Rachie. Rachie, what were you
was about to say something.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and
I was
bring
going
it
to say,
back to
I
Rachie.
agree with Tony that density doesn't contribute to the rate that things fall, where I think density does give it a direction. But I don't think density just describes how fast something will fall. I think it has more something to do with pressure.
So let me
Like
let me
how
ask that.
wind and air moves from high pressure to a low pressure, or low pressure to a high pressure. I forget now.
So let me ask you a question then, because you say that density is responsible for direction, correct? You didn't say it was directly responsible for the fall. You just said it was mostly responsible for the direction. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the direction, whether it goes up or down, left or right. Left.
Oh, well, that's even better. So let's say that I have a marble, and the marble, of course, is more dense than all the air around it, correct? You agree with that? Okay. So if I take that marble and I put it up next to the wall, what would make it fall down towards the ground? Why would it not stick to the wall when the most dense object around the marble would be the wall?
Because that's thinking that it falls to the more dense thing, when it's just because it's more dense than all the air around it that the direction is down. If it was less dense, then the direction would be up. Or if the more dense was to one side, it would go to the other side.
So if I put a steel wall that is more dense than the ground beneath it, would the marble not still fall to the ground?
Yeah, it still falls to the ground because it's still more dense than the air.
No. The steel wall that, so let me get my handy dandy phone again. So let's say that this is more dense than the dirt outside, okay? If I take a ball, if I go and I set my phone down outside on the ground, all right, and I have a ball that I put right here, a marble that I put right here. Huh? No, it's not. I'm looking at it.
Chat's going nuts about the stream being dead.
Dude.
I can still see us.
Yeah, y'all may need to refresh.
Yeah, I see us.
Okay. Just refresh. I'm sure that you could see it, because I'm looking at it right now and it's up. Okay. You can't tell them though.
I come back and it says the stream's ended.
It's
I'm
ended?
still in the chat.
It's not ended.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now.
No, it's gone to the end screen. It's showing like next thing's available.
Not for me. It isn't.
I'm down to 150 viewers from 400 almost immediately.
Oh no, it's back up now.
Why is fucking YouTube doing this shit, man? This is really fucking pissing me the fuck off. That YouTube
must be onto something in
well, I'm not even kidding. Like, this is demoralizing that YouTube is doing this right now, and it's affecting creators negatively. not just on
Yeah.
production quality, but people like myself and Fight the Flat Earth. We fucking do this shit for a living, So this is my living that they're fucking with right now, and it's fucking pissing me off. I can't even barely get a goddamn stream to start as a scheduled stream anymore because they put in all this extra shit. Fucking YouTube, get a life, YouTube. Start fucking listening to the content creators and quit thinking you're gonna fucking fix things by fucking it up. Okay, Rachie. So now let me get back to this. Ah, man. Okay. So Rachie, let me get back to this again. If I put this phone on the ground, and let's say this phone is steel, all right? Then the steel on this phone is denser than the dirt on the ground, all right? If I put a marble ball up here that's also denser than the ground, there should be no reason, if you're saying is correct, there should be no reason that this ball falls to the ground because all the denser objects are already up here. I can use we'll say a steel marble that's denser than the ground, a steel plate that's denser than the ground, and it's sitting on the ground like this. There should be no reason for that ball to fall down. It should just stick right there. Why doesn't it?
But to me, because it's not immersed in it. Like you have to be immersed in it.
Can I step in here? So it's not the density it's not the relative density that's important. It's the weight of the object versus the material strength of what it's on. So if I'm standing on, say, a steel beam, right? That is the weight say I stand on a trampoline, right? I am obviously a lot denser than the rubber that makes up the sheet of the trampoline. Okay, but I don't fall through the trampoline because the trampoline is strong enough to resist that force. So whether or not an object goes through another object depends on the strength, the relative strength of the relative weights and the relative strengths of the two objects and the total forces being applied. But it that doesn't address the question. There are 2 points that I would make out. One, if you go near a big mountain range, like for instance the Himalayas or even the Rockies, actually you can detect that things will fall. They don't fall straight down. They fall diagonally. There's a slight sideways pull due to the mass of the mountains that is detectable. Now, if your density argument were correct, that shouldn't be happening, right? If it's just the density of what's directly underneath the object in question, then that sideways component of the acceleration shouldn't exist, and yet we can observe that it does. What you're talking about, the sort of things floating or things going down, yes, that is a more complicated question than what are the fundamental forces at play here, and the identity of gravity. That's a more complicated question, and you're trying to explain what are actually multiple distinct phenomena with the one explanation. And
can I show a brief video to kind of back up what you're saying there, Tony?
Yep.
So what Tony's talking about is with there being a different acceleration, diagonally due to a gravitational component. There was an experiment done called the Shahelian Experiment on a mountain in Scotland.
Nevertheless, Lynn had a go. This is what he did. He dangled a long plumb line on a platform 2/3 of the way up the mountain. He knew 2 gravitational forces would act upon it. The main gravity would obviously be coming from the mass of the Earth, pulling it down. But the mass of the mountain itself would pull the plumb line towards it, slightly off vertical. We've exaggerated it here. That gravitational effect is what he measured. From the angle the plumb line was deflected, Maskelyne could calculate the mass of the Earth relative to the mountain. He knew what the mountain weighed, so he could work out the weight of the Earth.
Pretty impressive stuff, right?
And this
how
has
can the
been.
Earth have weight?
I beg your pardon?
How can the Earth have weight?
If Earth It's in space and it shouldn't have any weight, should it?
I
Has
think
mass.
Raichi has an excellent point. The presenter misspoke. That is exactly right. And full marks to you, Raichi, because
catch.
that was an error. That is a distinct error in the video. The Earth has mass; it does not have weight. Yeah, well done.
A lot of time the presenters won't know scientific terminology and won't say things exactly right. But what he meant was he was all able to determine the mass of the Earth and the mass of the mountain.
Yeah.
Based
And
purely
I will
on
say
that gravitational acceleration that pulled the plumb bob off of vertical. Now, if it's all due to density, there's no reason why that plumb bob would have swayed from being vertical, right? And the experiment was actually done over a year, right? They did it every day for a year and took the average, because obviously there's going to be weather conditions and stuff that will affect what's going on. So they did the experiment every day for a year and took the average. And when they did that, they were able to come up with the mass of the Earth that is what we say it is today. So, I mean, it has to have been right.
Do you know what the degrees were that it moved?
I could find that information for you. I don't have that on hand, but it's a well-documented experiment. It's called the Shahelian Experiment.
It won't be by much.
I'm pronouncing that wrong. I do apologise. No, it wasn't very much at all. But enough for them to measure it.
Yeah, and this is one of the problems, is that a lot of these effects are actually really, really subtle on our everyday life, and we don't really care. They don't really make a difference to us.
Let me interject to that, because then that kind of to me that we need to also emphasize that there are people who do take these effects into account. It's very seriously, not just the explorers or the explorer. Would they be explorers or explorators?
The surveyors, the surveyors who,
I don't know that they'd be called. They do exploratory work, right? Would that be the term you would use?
Okay. The gravimetric mineral exploration. They just go under the name mineral geophysicists.
I think I just made up a word. Explorator.
You did.
I used it very properly, though. I use an improper word properly, but it's not just them. It's also the gemstones, people that deal in gemstones and anything that where there's a high value to weight, because you have to know that the weight of something will change. Something is going to get heavier as you get closer to the North Pole. As you leave the equator, there are a couple of reasons. First, you have a squishing down effect that brings you closer to the center of mass, and the second thing is that you have the rotation is less and less. The tangential velocity is less and less as you get closer and closer to the North Pole. So an object at 45 degrees will have it's not going to be huge, but it will be a different weight than it will have at the equator. And if you're dealing in gemstones, or you're dealing in minerals or diamonds or oil or anything of where value is determined by weight, you're really going to you need to know these things, and they do take them into account.
Yeah. So I mean, Do you guys follow the argument of the Shahelian experiment? Do you see what was going on there, or do you have a major issue with it?
Well, I have a bit of an issue with it because mass doesn't actually attract mass, does it?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. I spent the first 10 minutes of this discussion explaining that the mineral industry uses the fact that mass attracts mass to locate subsurface ore deposits. And this is called gravimetric mineral exploration, and you can look that up you can Google that. It's a thing, and it works very reliably. Mineral companies pay a significant amount of money to have this done. and if mass doesn't attract mass, that can't work, because we use the formula for mass attracting mass to identify identify and locate the subsurface ore. Yeah, mass and I went through that explanation in some detail, so I'm a bit surprised that, having given you that explanation of here's a real-world industry that uses the fact that mass attracts mass to obtain real-world results, I'm a little surprised that, having explained that to you, you're now telling me that mass doesn't attract mass.
Well, the only reason I say that is because I remember talking to AB Science, and we was talking about how Newton's law was wrong because they couldn't calculate the orbit of Mercury around the Sun. And so Einstein basically improved upon that. And then I was asking him which theory of gravity is actually correct, because you've got like quantum gravity, you've got loop quantum gravity, you've got mass attracting mass, Newton's gravity. You got like all these different types of gravity, and I was asking him which one's correct.
Okay, so I'd actually really like to address that. So,
go ahead.
If you're going to use the orbit of Mercury as an example that Newtonian gravity doesn't work, then you have to accept that Mercury orbits the Sun and is being observed from Earth as it orbits the Sun. So the suggestion that a flat earther can use, somebody who believes the Earth is flat can use the inaccuracy of Newtonian gravity when applied to the orbit of Mercury to argue that the Earth is flat just seems nonsensical. You cannot do that.
Well, I'm not arguing that the Earth is flat because of that. I'm just arguing that
but you are going to go on later on and argue that the Earth is flat and isn't orbiting the Sun, and it doesn't. And you cannot, So, if we're just talking about terrestrial observations, if we're just talking about macroscopic observations on Earth, then Newtonian gravity does a perfectly fine job. The difference between that and Einsteinian gravity is so small that you will never need to worry about it. Okay? Both theories coincide as far as macroscopic Earth-based observations are concerned. It's only when you start talking about planetary bodies in extreme circumstances that you start needing to refine the theory of gravity and extending it to incorporate Einsteinian corrections or relativistic corrections.
And here's the important point.
I've got more. I've got that info you're looking for Shahelian.
Yeah. Cool.
Send it to me, Sean.
It's not that Newton was incorrect. It's that Newton was incomplete with his calculations, right? Newton based everything that he observed on observations. He based his entire law of gravity on empirical observations of things falling at the same rate. A lot of celestial observations were explained by the law that he came up with, but it was incomplete. And Newton never even had a theory of gravity. In fact, he tried to distance himself from a theory of gravity because Newton's law suggests that gravity acts instantaneously. It reaches as if by magic to instantly hold the moon in place. But Einstein explained that wasn't actually the case, that gravity is limited to the speed of light, and that there's a lot more to it than just an apparent magical force of mass attracting mass. It doesn't take away the fact that there is a force that you can calculate. It's just then Einstein explained what Newton saw more accurately. And now we are coming up with even more accurate ways to describe gravity. Doesn't mean that Newton was wrong, and it doesn't mean that Einstein was wrong. It just means that we're understanding more and more based on what they gave us.
Yeah, I'd like to kick it over to Sean. I think he has some information about the Shahelian experiment. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way they did the experiment was they actually did it on two locations on the mountain, one north and one south of the peak. And what they did was they actually sighted into stars so they can figure out where actual vertical was to their positions. And they figured out that the difference between the positions from the north to the south observation points was 54.6 arc seconds of latitude. And when they actually got their vertical setup right based on star locations, they found out that there was actually a missing 11.6 from their plumb bobs between the two stations, which is how they figured out that the mountain was actually pulling the plumb bobs towards the peak.
Yeah.
Of 11.6 degrees between the two stations. 11.6, I'm sorry, not 11.6 degrees, 11.6 arc seconds. Yes, arc seconds. My bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Arc seconds.
So,
right. Wow, I was going to
so
say.
for the benefit of Keith and Rachie, a degree has 60 arc minutes in it, and an arc minute has 60 arc seconds in it. 11 arc seconds is a very small angle, but nonetheless, the precision of the instruments used
of 1/60th of a degree.
Yeah. So it's it's a very small amount, but it is nonetheless detectable with the right instrumentation. And I just want to go back to Rachie's point about Einsteinian gravity. It is important to remember what I said earlier. If you're trying to build up an understanding of how physics works, you start with basic principles and you get more sophisticated. It is a strategic error to try and understand all of science all at once. It can't be done. So we're here working through the basics of gravitational acceleration and balance of forces and the potential contribution of air pressure. We need to leave Einsteinian gravity for later on, once we've got a sound understanding of what it is we're dealing with in the terrestrial framework. I know it's tempting to want to understand everything all at once, and you feel like science, science obviously does exist all at once, but when you're approaching it and you're not particularly familiar with it, Yep.
I think the issue is that flat earthers jump on the apparent discrepancies between Einsteinian and Newtonian gravity and try and use that as some kind of gotcha, right? And that has spread throughout the flat earth community. Oh, which gravity are you talking about? Oh, Newton didn't know. Oh, that's not even the current rhetoric. It's the warped space-time. It's not mass attracting mass. Without actually understanding that they all kind of stem from the same thing and explain the same thing. And the only argument that is needed is that you can derive Newton's law of gravitational attraction from Einstein's tensor equations for general relativity. They wouldn't be the same thing if you couldn't derive one from the other. I mean, there's a lot of math that even I don't completely get involved in Einstein's 10 tensor equation that explain the curvature of space-time. That's a lot of maths that even me with a BSc in physics doesn't fully understand. I'm sure Tony would understand them a lot more than me. But the fact is that when you actually break it down, those 10 tensor equations can go down to Newton's law of gravitational attraction. They are the same.
Yeah. Now, Keith, you've been kind of quiet over there. What do you have to offer to this conversation about gravity? What do you think gravity is?
Okay, let me go ahead and throw it out there. I know you're going to say no, but is it possible that mass does attract mass, but the world is still flat?
No.
I would. So let me say. It is not impossible that is the case, but it would require some breaking of physics in order for it to happen.
It would mean gravity worked differently.
Yeah, it would mean gravity worked a little bit differently from what we observe. And if I were going to believe that the world is flat, I would base it around mass attracting mass, right? I would concede that. It's not the fact that gravity exists. I started in on this because gravity is one of the things that flat earthers for some reason like to reject, and I don't particularly understand why, because the discussion of the geometry of Earth is actually very separate from the discussion of gravity. We can prove that we know the Earth is round based on other observations, not from our observations of gravity. So I'm not sure why the flat earthers choose to die on this gravity hill. It's the other observations that they've got to be more concerned about. Like
No,
the
I would
elevation.
say
If I can,
No,
ahead,
well,
Frank.
Rachie hasn't
sorry,
stopped,
Richie, go
so
on.
I was going to say, because obviously without gravity, you can't be stuck to an underside of a ball kind of thing.
Well,
Right.
absolutely, gravity is what makes the Earth a ball, so you stick to it. But, now, I wanted to directly address Keith's thing about, well, would it still work on would gravity still work, right? Now, if you can see my screen right now, imagine this is you looking side on at the flat Earth, like of a disc, right? Now, if you're in the middle, just here, you'd feel relatively normal, because we know that gravity not only attracts mass between mass, but it attracts towards the center of mass, right? And the center of this whole mass, the whole disk, will be in the middle, right? Which means that as you went out towards the edge, it would... Oops, that's not the right one. It would
My
still
artwork's
more
better
and
than
more
yours.
like you were going uphill, right? More and more, because as you got towards the outer edge, there would be more mass below and behind you. So
yeah.
At the edge, you would literally feel like you were on a vertical wall. And then if you stepped over the edge of the disk and you were here, you would feel relatively normal gravitational acceleration again, because it would be attracting towards the middle here.
But
we
again,
know
you could
that
explain
gravity...
that.
Sorry, go on, Tony.
Sorry, you could explain that by having by being on a flat surface that is just much bigger, that extends basically infinitely laterally,
Right.
and then your gravitational angle wouldn't change that much from one side of the Earth to the other, and that's a possibility that cannot be excluded. So this is why I would argue that actually it's not gravity that defines the shape of the Earth. So it is possible for mass to, I would argue that it's possible for mass to attract mass, and for the Earth to be flat. I would argue that it's that's a more reasonable formulation than most flat earthers have come to. But
then the observations of the Shahelian experiment show that that's not the case, right? Because it shows that the gravitational vectors point towards a center.
Yeah, but that's a more subtle argument, right? It's more subtle to prove them wrong than their claim that just mass doesn't attract mass. So, but again, the shape of the Earth, gravity is actually a little bit separate from the shape of the Earth. If I were trying to prove that the Earth were spherical, I wouldn't be using gravity to do it. I'd be using various observational techniques like the elevation angles of celestial objects, or the shape of our ability to precisely predict lunar and solar eclipses, the geometry of sunsets and sunrises, all of this stuff, all of this observational evidence we have. That proves that our understanding of the Earth is actually really good. That's what I'd be relying on. I wouldn't be relying on gravity so much.
Got anything, Rachel?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on all of that? Both of you, because Raichi's entire thing is that it's all dead to do with density, but density doesn't explain any of these observations. Density doesn't explain the Cavendish experiment. Density doesn't explain the Shahelian experiment. Density doesn't explain a difference in gravitational acceleration depending on where you are on the Earth. So, what's your general thoughts on it all? Rachel,
Well, when it comes to the
Either one of you can answer that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Shahelian experiment, like when you say, I would think it would just be pointing down as far as going towards the center of the Earth if it's a sphere. Is that what you were saying, or something else?
Well, we say under normal circumstances it does until you have a mass the size of a mountain standing next to you, and then you'll get a deflection at that point because there's enough mass there and you're close enough to it. It doesn't negate the pull of gravity on the plumb original. The plumb still wants to point towards the center of gravity, but what there is it's also being accelerated slightly towards the mountain, just enough to be noticed. You know, you go a little bit further,
Right.
you might not get it. You get closer to the mountain, and with the mountain being sloped up, it might even be harder to do that because as you get closer to the mountain, you're also going to have to get, you know, away from the majority of its mass on the bottom. So they probably just took, you know, and the average density of the land that was there and calculated the volume of it, and then they could get the mass of the mountain, and then they could tell from the deflection, because then you're working with two different vectors. You're working with one that's pulling this way at the bottom, and you're working with one that's pulling straight down from the top. And then when you get that, you can actually calculate with the deflection what the relative masses are to one another. And if you know what the relative masses are and you know what the mass of the mountain is, then you can determine what the mass of the Earth is.
Yeah. So,
Can I just?
but again,
Sorry.
Go on. No, go on.
I just
Go
wanted
on,
to
Mike.
quickly. I just wanted to quickly address someone in chat. Not having a go, but they're saying that I'm over talking Larry something. Larry? I'm really not trying to butt up people. What you need to understand is I am on maybe a 5-second delay compared to these guys.
Yeah.
So I might think that someone has stopped talking, so then I start talking, but they've actually already started talking again. Most of the time I then try to, I stop so that they can finish what they're saying. But it's very hard for me to know when to be able to make a point. So to both Rachie and Keith, I do apologise if I have cut you off. That is not my intention. I think
it was more
under
Tony.
a slight delay compared to the rest of you.
Yeah.
I think it's really more Tony than them, because I think they're sitting back with pens, papers, and taking notes from people who know what they're talking about. I hope you're doing that, because there is some information.
We're really interrupt you.
Yeah, we really are giving you some good information. We're not trying to talk over anybody or anything like that. We are really trying to give some good information to you guys to help you from making a mistake in your life. Now, of course, that's my opinion. Hey, of course, I accept that's my opinion. But I'm telling you now that being a flat earther, nothing good is ever going to come out of being a flat earther. You're not really going to be a truther like I'm sure you want to be. I'm sure you actually want to know the truth. I'm not discrediting that whatsoever. I'm just saying that the truth you're chasing is a fairy tale. If you're out there to prove that Santa Claus really does exist, you're just chasing your tail. You'll never get to the end of it.
Yeah.
You'll never find it. You'll never find the bottom of that rabbit hole. But when you start really looking at reality, when you take some of the things that we're trying to explain to you, where Tony's talking about something that's much, much more complicated than what I was talking about with an accelerometer, he's giving you great information about like super technical things that are being used on the multi-million-dollar scale where companies invest tons of money. They wouldn't just lose money if it wasn't working. They wouldn't do it, you know. But instead, they keep putting the money in, and then I'm coming behind them and saying, look, here's something that you yourself can do from home. I'm telling you right now, in the time I'm talking right now, you guys could be downloading an accelerometer to your phone so you could see what I'm talking about and test it for yourself. Yeah. Don't trust me. Let me give you the information and then go test it for yourself. If what I'm saying is right, there will be a prediction that you can make. And if that prediction doesn't come true, then you can come back and tell me I'm full of bullshit. But if it does come true, you need to kind of start listening to where I'm coming from so that maybe you can see it for yourself. Don't believe me. I want you to see it for yourself. That's the only way you're going to be convinced. I can't do your homework.
Yeah, I want to ask, did you just say that Santa isn't real?
Look, man, I ain't fucking nobody's life up with that comment. I'm just saying.
Santa may not be real, but Professor Phil Bell is in the chat.
Another great person.
He deserves a.
Wait, are you saying that Professor Phil Bell is Santa?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Guys, mystery solved.
When it comes to Santa, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
But it's aliens.
So I just wanted to pick up on what Tim was saying. He is exactly right. If we say anything here, and you say that sounds interesting, you go and follow it up. Or if you think, well, that sounds like bullshit, go and follow it up.
Right.
I can misspeak. I can make mistakes. I'm not going to say. The objective here is not for me to sort of be dictating to you. I'm trying to present evidence, and sometimes I may say stuff that is slightly wrong, or I am trying to be as accurate as I can. But follow it up yourselves. That's key to this process. So yeah.
Hey team,
You want to stay on that, Rachie, or you got something else?
Too in the chat says that you would know aliens. You sniff out your own.
Yes. All right. Now, what did you want to say there, Keith? I'm sorry. What did you have to say?
I was just going to say, did Rachie have another question about this, or did she want to move on to another subject?
No, I think I need to look into it more, to be honest, about the mass attracting mass. It'd be nice if there was some experiments showing that, which wasn't even though some objects they use aren't magnetic, you can still create a magnetic flux, can't you? So you can still make them kind of magnetic, even though they're not magnetic with the I forget what the actual name is called now.
Well, hold on. Let me address that because I know exactly what she's talking about. You're talking about eddy currents, which I explained these the other day. Yeah, I explained these the other day, and it was not to you. It was to somebody else. So what an eddy current is?
You explained it to me actually.
It's a consequence of Maxwell's laws. Okay, when you get a moving charge, it creates a magnetic field. When you get a moving magnetic field, it creates a electric charge. Okay, or a moving electric charge. So what you do is when you drop a magnet down a brass tube, the magnet itself moves the electrons, which then generates a moving charge. That moving charge generates its own its own magnetism field, which then interacts with the field of the magnet that you're dropping, and it reduces the way that it travels. So it falls at less than the speed of gravity. But there's a reason that it does that. It's not just because of anything special about the magnet or special about
it's magic.
It's not magic. It's just simply the same thing that happens.
It's not magic?
The reason why it's important is because we use it in electronics. We have to take these into account in electronics because these moving fields, a lot of things in electronics are like electromagnetic switches and stuff like that. So if you have charges moving and they generate a powerful enough magnetic field, then those eddy currents can actually end up causing a switch to go into a different state. So that's why you have to worry about eddy currents or they can generate moving electrons in other wires or in other components. There's a whole, and this is especially important as technology gets smaller and smaller and things get closer and closer together, because as you get closer, these fields get stronger. So that's what an eddy current is. It has nothing to do with gravity whatsoever. That's what we were talking about before when we say that the acceleration of an object falling down is a sum of all vectors, right? A sum of all the forces acting upon it. So the magnetic fields generated by by the moving magnet, then when they interact with it, they just slow down the acceleration. It's nothing special.
Yeah. So Jessica G just wants me to teach you how not to talk, team.
What did I do wrong?
You talked.
I think. Yeah. You know how you trigger Jessica G. She is.
I do.
So, what would you guys like to talk about instead? Moving
Rachie,
on.
you got it. I'm about to go to the
Sean
restroom
had
right quick.
some evidence that Sean had some evidence that he wanted to show to Keith. So maybe we could do that.
Okay.
Remind me.
The elevation angle of Polaris.
To show him stuff. Yeah.
Elevation angle of Polaris.
Oh,
Your recent video that you did.
are you one of those types that says that the Polaris dropping 1 degree every 69 miles that you travel works perfectly fine on a flat Earth?
I'll stay away. I don't know. You tell me.
I think
we did
I
have
think
a,
Keith's
we,
claim
we
was
had a
the.
discussion. We had a discussion about this
Sorry,
previously,
go on,
and Keith is very skeptical about distances over water, but he believes that if you do if you move 69 miles over land, then you are going to observe a 1 degree motion, a 1 degree change in the apparent elevation of Polaris on a flat surface. I think is
that accurate, Keith?
So, but I think Keith has perhaps, based on our reaction last time, decided to be a little bit more cautious about it this time around. So
yeah, I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and just say what you say.
That's a very good choice, Keith, because I actually tested that, and I did that with a drone and an inclinometer that was attached to a camera. Craig, if you want to pull up the video, that'd be fine.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds.
It's on my channel. It's the most recent, or it should be.
Okay,
or actually, it's the second most recent.
And just while we're waiting for that, I want to say Phil Bell thinks the team gave an incredibly good discussion of eddy currents. So
I'm sure it could have been better. I'm sure I missed that. I missed that question on a practice test in the military, and it made me so intrigued to learn what it was. And now I constantly say brass is magnetic on accident. You know, when I'm like the other day I was trying to explain something on the Plot Holes channel, and I was like, yeah, if you take a magnet up against brass and you hold it there, we were trying to talk about, he was trying to talk about magnets being a replacement for gravity, and then the Plot Hole was like, I think you mean like iron, right? And I was like, yeah, iron, not brass. I'm sorry. Brass is not non-magnetic, but you can generate an eddy current within the brass. All right, you ready, Fight?
All right, I've got your video up, Sean. Yeah. Where do you want to go into it?
Just hold on for a second. Now, what I did, Keith, was I put a drone up to 400 feet and left it at 400 feet for the entirety of the flight, and I flew it away from me at 100-foot increments. And the reason why this is important, because in the real world, you move south from the North Pole 69 miles, you see a drop in Polaris by 1 degree. If you went 697 miles, because it's actually 69.7 miles, if you went 697 miles, you'll see that Polaris drops 10 degrees. And every 697 miles, it'll drop 10 more degrees. So as long as the increments are kept the same, it should be the same exact angle drop as you move away. So me moving the drone 100 feet in steps, it should have the same angle as the previous 100-foot step. So the first step was 12 degrees. The second step between 100 and 200 feet should also be 12 degrees. And from 200 feet to 300 feet should also be 12 degrees. This test didn't show that, leaving with it, assuming that Polaris maintains a set altitude. Doesn't matter what the altitude is, as long as it doesn't change over a flat Earth. It should, if flat Earth was correct, should show that same amount of angle drop every 100-foot step. Go ahead and take it up to about the 6-minute mark. There you go. So I've already taken it out 100 feet on the flight, and I'm showing on the drone where the measurements, or how far away it is. That's what the 202 foot right there is on the bottom right, top screen, bottom right. The bottom right picture is actually the camera focused on the drone, and the bottom left is the actual bird's eye view from the drone as it's flying. And what I found is every 100 feet, I got a smaller angular separation from the previous 100 feet. And the whole flight was the same way. So Polaris being a fixed altitude above a flat plane just doesn't work. Go ahead and take it up to about the. Go ahead, Keith.
So but you're saying that let me see how to get this exactly. You're based off of what you did with the 100 feet. What did you expect to see if it was flat? Let me say it that way.
Then every angle for every 100 feet should be identical.
No. I just want to correct you there.
If Polaris worked on a flat Earth the way they claim it would show an exact same angular separation.
Yeah, that's right. What we observe in reality is that what we observe in reality is that when we move a fixed distance away from, in fixed increments away from the North Pole, the angle of Polaris, the elevation angle of Polaris changes by a degree. That's what's observed in reality. And so if the flat Earth were correct, then the same thing ought to hold for any object of a fixed elevation. As you move away from underneath it by fixed increments, then the angle ought to change by a fixed amount. And what Sean did was he did that experiment and he showed that actually that doesn't happen. You get different angles moving out by a fixed amount every time. And this is simple trigonometry. And Sean, obviously when I say simple trigonometry, I'm talking about mathematics, and I have every confidence in the reality of that mathematics. But what Sean here has done, he's invested a lot of time and effort in a practical demonstration of this that you can see. And Sean has a very diligent attitude to documenting his experiments. If you want to see that, watching the entire video will explain the context in a lot more detail. Sorry, Sean.
The premise of the whole video was I'd taken a flat Earth claim and tested it, and it proved to not be true.
Yeah, that's right.
Which you've done a few times, haven't you, Sean?
Just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, like building an entire 2-scale flat Earth model.
At the time, it was the widely accepted flat Earth model, but ever since I did that experiment, they no longer have a model.
Yeah.
Well, no, now they've got magic teleport in Pac-Man world, right?
Yeah. So, and so we're talking about Polaris here, but actually this works for any star crossing your meridian, right?
Yes.
Observers to the north, or observers moving a fixed distance north or south will see a fixed change in the elevation angle of that star as it crosses. And one particular example of stars crossing meridian is actually the sun. So you can do the same observation with the sun. And for every star, including the sun, we get the same result, which is we don't get results that are consistent with the Earth being flat. We don't get a consistent height estimate for the object, and it doesn't matter if you do it, on a continental meridian or any other meridian. You're going to get the same result, and it's a simple result. It's a simple consequence of the mathematics involved. The mathematics of the simple just don't allow you to get what's observed, whereas on a spheroidal Earth, it falls out very naturally.
Yeah. So there's an instrument sailors use called a sextant, right? A sextant works by measuring the angle between a celestial body and the horizon. Okay. And what a good thing that a lot of sailors would use is Polaris, because it's an extremely bright star in the sky, and sailors knew that the further north they were up, the more directly overhead they were. And what they found was that for every 69 miles that they traveled south, the angle between Polaris and the horizon would change by exactly 1 degree, right? Now, if you were on the flat Earth, for every 69 miles, that angle wouldn't just be 1 degree, it would change constantly. But because the Earth is a sphere, the consequence of that is that you can use things like a sextant to accurately determine where you are on Earth based on the position of celestial bodies. And the navigation only works on a sphere. A sextant wouldn't work if the Earth was flat. It's simple as that. Yeah. The device 100% would not be able to give you accurate readings if the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
May I ask why?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you draw out,
if the Earth was flat,
can you bring up my geodesy? I sent that to you the other day. Do you still have it, or do you need me to provide another link?
I'll just go to your channel and grab it.
So,
the introduction to geodesy, yeah?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, okay, I'm just bringing that up.
We'll figure it out at some point, Rachie.
Okay, so if you just just go to 2 minutes in, I think. No, back of it. Yeah, there. Okay. So here's an illustration of what we're talking about. So there's Polaris at the left-hand side, and it's got some fixed height h, and it overlies the North Pole. Now, basically every 111 kilometers we move away from the North Pole, the elevation angle is observed. This is our observation. The elevation angle decreases by a degree. And so we can solve for the height, looking at that diagram from the bottom. If an observer moves 2,500 kilometers away, they're going to end up with an elevation angle to Polaris of 67.5 degrees. And that allows us to use trigonometry. We can now use trigonometry to work out what that h value is. And that's going to be 2,500 times the tangent of 67.5 degrees. That's just the formula for a tangent. That's a constant number. And you can see that that's a little bit over 6,035. But if there's another observer who's another 2,500 kilometers south, and they've got an elevation angle to Polaris of 45 degrees, and we can do the calculation again. So 5,000 times the tangent of 45 degrees is just 5,000, because the tangent of 45 degrees is just 1. But we came up with different numbers. The 5,000 is not the same as 6,000. So we're not getting consistent results, and it doesn't matter latitude or what, it doesn't matter what longitude you're on, and it does latitude you're on. If you try and treat the Earth as flat and solve for that height of the object, you're never going to get consistent answers. You're always going to be inconsistent, because that's the way the trigonometry works out. Now, if you can go about 20 seconds, 30 seconds further on. Yeah, there. So if you're standing on the surface of the Earth and Polaris is a really long way away, then when you're at the North Pole, Polaris is upwards at 90 degrees. But the way, because those lines off to Polaris are parallel, the way the system works out is that the elevation angle to Polaris is just changes by 1 degree every 1 degree you move around the globe. So that's this is why we think. Well, this is how we know. This is how people first concluded that the Earth was a globe, and they actually put an effort. So there were a variety of techniques used to use this to measure the distance between how far north or how far south you had to go to change the elevation and prove that it was the same. These are the fundamental observations that first alerted people to the fact that they're not on a flat surface when they started doing these detailed observations. Does that make any sense? Does that make more? I realize I've introduced some trigonometry, and I'm sorry for that, but that's the way it
basic
sort of works.
Trigonometry.
Yeah, but is that
very? I mean, that's kind of like middle school trigonometry.
Rachie and Keith, do you understand that, like, what he's showing you here is how you would prove to us that your predictions about the shape of the Earth are indeed solid? So you would make a prediction, like Tony would say. You said at 45 degrees, you would measure the distance to the North Pole from 45 degrees anywhere along 45 degrees north, for instance. You would measure the distance to the North Pole, and then what you could tell is at 45 degrees, you're looking at a 90-degree triangle on the other side and 45 on this side. So that means that both of those heights are going to be the same. The height of the sun is going to be equal to the land distance from the North Pole to the 45th latitude. Okay? Or 45th latitude. So this is basic trigonometry here. Okay? It's not anything difficult.
Basic trigonometry.
This is simply the science and math of triangles. That's it. It's completely well understood. In fact, there's a much greater and much more in-depth study of that field in those mathematics. And what we're talking about is the very first thing they teach you. how to calculate, the length, the base, and the one side versus the other side versus the hypotenuse. SOHCAHTOA. That teaches you sine, tangent, and cosine right there, how to calculate those. And if you understand basic trigonometry, then you understand what we're talking about when we say that at 45 degrees, we're looking up at the sun at 45 degrees. If somebody was there relative to straight down below, they'd be looking down at us at a 45 degree angle. So that's two 45 degree angles. That means these two lengths are the same. So by knowing the distance to the 45th latitude, we can then determine the height of the sun. And then we can test that at the 30th latitude and at the 15th latitude. And we can test that all the way to the equator and beyond, because guess what? Doesn't matter if we go past the equator. The Polaris will always be in the sky. And this is understood by basic trigonometry. If you say the sun should go down, then you're telling me that we don't understand basic trigonometry. Not we as in us three, but we as in humanity and mathematicians around the world.
So this is the same mathematics that we use to make sure that buildings don't fall over and the planes fly properly and that sort of stuff. Calculating the angles at which forces are applied to stuff is very fundamental to sort of any structural engineering. So we're pretty confident that our understanding of that is very, very good. But does that make sense? Is that any more clear as to what we're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that, like, obviously the angle changes, and with every degree you can see by the illustration that it does change the angle in the sky. So I can't really argue with it now.
Yeah. What about you, Keith? How do you feel about it?
Well, I want to say I noticed that when you do the flat, you gave the actual numbers, but then when you do the sphere, you didn't.
Yeah, because those are 45 and 67.5 degrees. I just got a bit lazy there. That's my bad. I should have put the numbers in. But yeah, and I was trying to keep it a little bit simpler because I didn't necessarily. The figure was promising to get very, very cluttered once I started putting in all of the lines that needed to be put in there. But those are so it's parallel. It's got to do with parallel lines and supplementary angles in between parallel lines. So if you look at that figure with the disk again, and you take the leftmost upward line and the rightmost upward line and the sort of radius that joins them inside the sphere, the two angles inside must add up to 180 degrees. And then I subtract 90 degrees from the angle that's at the surface, because that's where the tangent would be, and then I'm going to get the same angle as was on the other side. So it does work.
Okay. I do want to point out that somebody, Huge R, said this in the chat. He said, if nothing else, this should show them that there's more to know than they already know. And I want to re-emphasize that, because there's more to know than what we know. What we know sitting up here, we're only talking about our personal expertise, our personal understanding, our personal education. There's more to know than we could ever even come up and know.
Yep.
So the other thing I want to point out, and I'm going to pull out my fancy artwork here because we do that recently. Okay, I want to show you something, and I'm just going to walk you through this, guys. I don't want you to change your beliefs just yet, okay? But I want you to just make this assumption with me for 1 second, just for this observation. We're going to say that the sun, or the Polaris, is right above the North Pole, is much larger than the Earth. Okay, we're actually going to draw Polaris right here, okay? Because it's much larger than the Earth. And it's a great distance away.
Supposed to be able to see what you're doing?
Oh, shit. Hold on.
Yeah.
I have a habit of not showing what I do. Hold on. And it's very important. This is some must-know
It's usually a good idea,
information.
actually. You know what? Just leave it on. That stream is fine.
Okay. So, here we go. This is our Earth right here. This is our Earth.
That was effortlessly worse than I was imagining, team. Well done.
Are you telling me that's not a photo, team?
No, it's not a photo. But look, here's what I want to point out. Okay,
Wow,
this is
amazing.
This is what I want to point out. We're going to take little we're going to assume that we take measurements at every degree, but we're going to show how this works at every 30 degrees, okay? Okay, whoops. That one's not really pointing that way, but you know what we do. And that one, okay, hold on.
I'm just
right.
glad I'm muted.
So, when we look,
Sean.
yeah, you're not muted, by the way. So when we look,
Oh no! I got a button on my mic that muted me.
Oh,
It was a good choice.
So these are the we're gonna say these are 90 degrees perpendicular to the surface of the Earth. Okay, these sticks. All right.
I mean, they're clearly not, but yeah.
When this guy looks up at Polaris, right? He looks up. He's really looking straight up. I just didn't draw that right. There we go. He's looking straight up at Polaris. This angle right here that he's looking off of his zenith is determined by his angle right here. Okay? So that angle that he is changing off of his zenith is going to match the angle that he's at. So that at 1 degree, you're looking at 89 degrees. At 2 degrees, you're looking at 88 degrees. At 3 degrees, and so forth, okay? So we're going to do this every mile, all right? Now, what you're going to see, we're going to just draw this out. Well, God damn it, I keep drawing it to the middle. It's straight up because of the size. So, okay? So this, and then you're going to start getting it to where it goes back into the Earth. Of course, these people can't see it, but still, the sun, or Polaris, is still at a relative position to them. Okay, so now what we get is that for every 69 miles we travel, these angles increase by 1. All right? Now what you need to tell me is what shape, other than the obvious globe Earth that I drew here that's so beautiful, what shape would allow you to have that? Because the only shape that allows you to have this observation is a globe Earth. There's only one shape. And then Rachie, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Does anybody here have a calculator on them?
I don't know.
Oh wait, it's not working.
You do have a calculator, Keith?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know going from the North Pole to the equator. Hold on one second, Craig. We know going from the North Pole to the equator, we know that there is we can measure this because this is consistent, flat Earth, globe Earth, doesn't matter. We can measure it, okay? And what it comes out to be is that for every degree of latitude is separated by about 69 miles, all right? Now there's 360 degrees in a circle. What's 360 times 69?
Hold on.
Now, team,
Say it again,
did you have a little
360
stroke whilst you were drawing that?
Yes, I did. 360 times 69.
24,840.
And there you have it. That's
Correct.
where we get our 25,000 mile circumference of the Earth. It's not really, we don't, and then we can do something else. We can calculate the radius at that point. That's how we get. That's how we know what the radius is. That's how we can determine what the radius is, making real-world observations. You yourself, living in the northern hemisphere, can do this for yourself. You can say if it stands that every degree, even past the equator, it gets 1 degree lower in the sky. Then number one, at 90 degrees at the equator, you should not, or at 0 degree. Well, yeah, 0 degree. Right. 90 degree. Is it 90 degrees at? Is 0 degrees at the? Oh shit!
I think it's 0. I think it's 0.
Yeah, it's 90 degrees at the equator, guys. I'm trying to do all the math and stuff. But anyways, what I'm saying is that if it stands to reason that you can continue making this, it'll always be 69 degrees for another degree. Now, here's the thing: on the opposite side, we don't have a star like Polaris. We have one that's slightly offset, but we're going to still say that there's a rotation point, right? There's a rotation point. We can still calculate it because we watch stars go around it, and we can just take the center of that circle and kind of say, okay, that's where the rotation point is. On the other side, we get the exact same observation, okay? Oh, well, yeah. This one, I drew this wrong, but, you know, it goes like that and like that.
I'm
but anyway,
sure I saw this drawing in biology class.
Shocked me.
Here's what the point is.
Right?
Here's what the point is. Even though once you cross the equator, you can no longer see the Polaris, all right, once you cross the equator, you can no longer see it, but you can see the opposite of Polaris, which is the southern rotation point. And the exact same observations happen, 1 degree per 69 miles. Now, if it stands to reason in the northern hemisphere, it's the same as the southern hemisphere due to these observations, then the Earth must not be flat.
Yeah. So this is, while I am sure you are all awestruck by the technical competence and artistry involved in that presentation, we will ask you to draw yourself out of your reverie and see if that made a lick of sense.
I'm going to read some quotes from the chat about teams drawing. Jessica G says, here's some money for the egg and sperm drawing. Someone says it's an Australian spider carrying a baby sack. Quitty says that it's quite clearly a testicle with spikes. And Woden Toad says, stop, Team Skeptic, FTFE, please make him stop, I'm dying. So
now the big question is,
team. Awesome,
and yeah, I got and it's 0 at the equator, guys. I was just being dumb there, making a student. Like Tony said, sometimes you brain fart. I brain farted, so my bad.
The real question though, Skeptic, is that your next shirt?
Oh yeah, I definitely need to get me a new one. Yeah. But
okay, but
yeah.
Rachie and Keith, how did that? Does that explanation sort of raise some issues that you might want to look into?
Like, for
I would
instance, the Earth
say
not being flat.
yes and no. Like, we're looking at Team Skeptic's drawing, like it could still work on a circular flat Earth because it looks like from his drawing, like it could go around the outside of it, almost like a degree and then a degree and then a degree.
Okay.
Just to remind you, I actually did a test for that. It didn't match.
All right, let me go ahead and grab a new drawing for you. Show you why this doesn't work.
Yeah, a new drawing would be a good idea.
Should I? I'm not gonna. No, no one else can do. Oh wait, let me put it up here so you guys can see. Okay, so this is the flattish. This is the flattish Earth. Okay, and here's Polaris. All right. So what Tony was saying is we could easily take this measurement right here. Okay, at any point, we will know because we can measure this distance. This distance doesn't have a change for us. Okay, like it's not different for you than it is for me. We both measure that distance. That's fine. This distance is known as h. Okay, we're just going to name this d and that h, and this is going to be an angle. Now, just having these 3 values right here, or these 2 values right here, we can calculate this value right here. Now, here's the thing: as we move down this way, it's not consistent. It does not match up. We'll get a different value for h. So we'll name this as angle 2, and this right here will be d2. Okay, and then this will be angle 3, and this will be d3.
So what's the formula for h?
Well, for h will be. Go ahead, Tony.
It's the distance along the bottom times the tangent of the angle.
How do you find the tangent out?
So tangents of angles, you just they're listed in tables. They're constant values for each angle. So each angle has its own tangent. If you get a calculator, you can ask it what the tangent is. They're fixed numbers. The tangent of 45 degrees is 1. The tangent of 30 degrees is 1 over root 3, and the tangent of 60 degrees is root 3.
So basically,
that's how it goes.
When he was explaining that the tangent of 45, let me explain that to you just so you can see it in drawings, okay? So 45 equals 1. All right, so what we do is we say that the tangent of D, or the tangent of the angle, okay? We're going to say the angle is going to be equal to the h
opposite over the adjacent
d. Yeah, h over d.
Yep.
Okay. So that's what that's the thing we have. Now there's going to be tangent of angle 1 equals h1 over d1. I'm sorry, I almost put that. Same thing with angle 2 will be h2 equal over d2. Now here's the thing, h never changes. So h must remain the same against all measurements. It should never change. h3 over d3. Okay, now when he said tangent of 45 equals 1, because if we make this the 45 degree mark, let's say, well, this means that d1 will equal h1. Now we've already said that 45 degrees is 1/8 of a circle, right? So
Yep.
360 divided.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm asking the flat earthers. Okay, so 45 degrees is 1 over the circle. Now we already discussed how far away, or is 1/8 of a circle. We already discussed how far away each degree is. How much was it, Keith? Was it 69 miles? Correct.
Right.
Okay, so do me a favor. 69 times 45.
3,105.
There's Parrot in the chat.
Okay, 3,105. Correct? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so now we're going to do another measurement right here. Okay, now we're going to say angle 2 is at 60 degrees. All right, so it's a little bit sharper of an angle, 60 degrees for angle 2. Now we should get h should not change. h2 should equal 3,105 or somewhat close. Well, let's say, a little bit of atmospheric distortion, whatnot. It might be a little bit off. We'll just say if we get within 10%, then it's a valid, 10%, we'll say it's a valid observation, okay? So h2 will equal, first off, what's 60 times 49? Or 60 times 69?
60, hold on.
Which way are you going here?
That would be 4,140.
Oh, am I doing? I should be doing 30 here.
Yeah,
huh? I'm sorry.
30. It's
30.
So that's
But it's from the distance. From the if we're getting D2, it should still be the long distance. So it should be greater than 3,105. What is 60 times 40 or 69?
60 times 69 is 4,140.
Okay, so that's going to be our D2, 4,140. Okay. Now
just
take
a quick
tangent.
question. Are you trying to outdo Anthony Riley for screwing up these calculations?
No, I'm not. Am I messing them up? What am I doing wrong?
Yes. Well, you just told Keith to do 60 times 49, and Keith corrected you to 60 times 69.
No, I think I corrected myself there. I don't know if he corrected me, but yes, I was looking at. I keep saying 49 because I have 69 on the mind. So yes,
right, okay.
60 times 69, which is 4,140. Is that correct? It's 4,140 that you said. I don't have my calculator going, so I'm doing the artwork for this one.
Yeah,
is that what you said though?
4,140 is correct.
So then
you call
tangent.
That artwork.
So the tangent. So h2 should be equal to, all right, the tangent of 30,
which is 0.58
times 4,140. What does that come out to, Keith?
Oh, is that? Hold on. Would you have tan 30?
Yeah, tangent 30.
Yep.
I have 2,390.23.
Okay, so now we have h1 equals 3,105. h2 equals what? 20 what?
2390.
All right, now we're going to do this last one. Is going to be at 1 degree, okay? At 1 degree. So we're talking about 1 degree off of the equator here. Now, what is, let's see, that would be 3,105 times 2, which is 6310 or 6210, minus 69, which would be 6141. Okay, so that's D3 is 6,000. let's say 6141 is what I said. So yeah, 6141.
Yeah.
D3 is 6141. Go ahead and do the math there for me. Double check. 89 times 69. Yeah, I got it right that time, Tony.
You did.
I kind
You
of
also got
yeah, I
your
kind of went through it.
subtraction right.
You got the answer.
Okay, you already went through it. So what's tangent times 1 multiplied by 6,141?
You said tangent times 1?
Yeah, tangent of 1.
Tangent
not
of-
tangent,
tangent
1.
of
Not,
1
I'm sorry,
degree.
yeah. Tangent 1 degree. I said tangent times 1. Tangent 1 degree times 6,141.
Unless I'm mistaken, I think I have 107.19.
No, you've got the right answer. That's the correct answer.
Okay.
Okay, so, Keith, that stands to reason that at 45 degrees, the sun is at 3,100 miles in the elevation. At 60 degrees, from the equator, so it'd be 30 degrees, the elevation is 2,390, and at 1 degree off the equator, the elevation is only 107 miles up. You can make these
we're talking about
observations
the
yourself.
elevation
I
of
don't have to do it. Yeah, I don't have to do it for you.
We're
You
talking
can make
about the
these.
elevation of Polaris, not the sun. Just
Yes.
to clarify that.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah. So, as you say, Keith, that last number doesn't. It's not even remotely in the right ballpark. The geometry here just doesn't work.
I think the only thing that might be stated against it is that people are going to say that we're kind of given certain numbers. That we don't really know the size.
But Keith,
Go ahead.
Keith I'm saying, but you could test this for yourself, though. You can absolutely
I got
test
you.
this for yourself.
I got you.
You can, if you want to be.
I've done it.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no, unless you can show us an observation you've made that shows us where inaccurate estimates of distances are given, and we're not talking about minor inaccuracies, we're talking about major inaccuracies, because for the flat Earth to work, Australia would have to be way different than what it is. There would have to be one Australia that's pictured on a globe that's nice and thin like this and kind of bent up, upside down heart for all my upside down Aussies. And then on the flat Earth map, it turns into the fucking Joker smile, where it's all like, it's just like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's because it has to be stretched out like that, because that's a 2D projection of a 3D surface.
Yeah.
You're going to lose some integrity somewhere, and the integrity that you guys lose is in the southern hemisphere, the continents in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So there are two things that I'd like to point out. One is that I live in Australia and we have a separate pole of rotation. So the stars over Australia rotate around a pole in the sky, and that pole is directly opposite Polaris as far from the globe Earth perspective. The other thing I'd like to point out about Australia is that for me the moon is upside down to what you see. So you guys in the northern hemisphere, you see the moon at a particular angle. For me, I see it upside down. It's the wrong way up in Australia. Anybody can go out and
more importantly, in Australia, all of the life forms are trying to kill you, right?
Well, that is more important, yes. But getting back to the central point, so explorers who start in the north and sail southward noticed that the moon started rotating in the sky as far as they were concerned. Sailing down alongside Africa to get around the southern edge of Africa, they noticed that the moon ended up upside down from what they were used to. And that observation really doesn't make sense on a flat Earth, right? There's no reason for that to be occurring on a flat Earth. So there are just a lot of weird, obscure things that you tend not to think about so much that actually just confirm the geometry here. So
you
got it, Rachel?
Yeah, we also. Well, I want to say.
Flat.
I want to point this out right here too. This is done from a person in the chat. This is not NASA or any astronomy people or anything like this. Just a normal person with a nice camera. Took a picture of southern star trails right there. So there is an axis of rotation. There's a point of rotation right there in the very middle of that thing. Even though you can't see an individual star there, it's not about needing a star to rotate around. It's about needing an Earth that rotates, so there's an apparent rotation point in the sky that's due to the surface of the Earth being, or actually 2 points that's due to the Earth being, shaped in three-dimensional. It just can't be two-dimensional. If let's say you had a diamond like this, you would still have 2 rotation points because it would be a three-dimensional object spinning. But on a flat Earth, there is no way to explain that how this little rotation point even exists. Like if he's looking in Australia and he sees that same point that I see when I'm down in Argentina, then we've got some major issues because we're looking at in two completely opposite directions and seeing the same thing. Completely explainable on a three-dimensional globe. Go ahead.
Under the flat Earth model, if you've got somebody in South Africa, somebody in Australia, somebody in Argentina, and they all look directly south, they're all looking away from the center of the disk, right? So they should not be seeing the same stars rotating around the same pole. Whereas if they're all on the bottom of a sphere and they're all looking towards the same celestial pole, that observation makes sense. And so the reality is that is exactly what happens. Observers in South Africa and in Argentina and in Australia, when they look south, they see the same constellations going around the same pole of rotation. And the only way that can happen is on a globe.
Or magic.
For me, that is one of our biggest issues that we do have to deal with, because we do have to figure that out if we're going to say what we're going to say. But I mean, I don't know, man. The world is weird. There's all kinds of stuff that makes things happen. So I don't know. I have to get on it, and whatever I start to see, I start to see.
Yeah.
But Keith,
again,
can I ask? Is what you've seen tonight convincing to you? I mean, Tony has explained very well how gravity is not only observed but used in industries. We've shown you how simple observations of the sky can only work on a globe. It's impossible for them to work on a flat plane. And the big thing about all of this is the heliocentric model explains all of this, right? With no problems. The heliocentric model explains all the observations of Polaris and the distances that it changes in the sky. The heliocentric model explains the gravitational attraction and the weight that we feel. Yet, there isn't a flat Earth model, because to have a model, you have to be able to make predictions and stuff, and the flat Earth can't do that. Flat Earth can explain individual things, but once you try and take all those individual ideas and put them into a cohesive model, they don't work. They don't mesh with each other. And that's the big thing, is that the heliocentric model explains every single one of these things that we talk about. But there is no cohesive flat Earth model to talk about that can even make predictions about the things that we talk about.
If I can touch on that.
Yes, Sean.
Well,
after you, Sean.
Craig's absolutely right, because I've been in this whole flat Earth thing for almost 6 years now. And when I first got into it, they were pushing forward flat Earth models. But when people pointed out the internal contradictions in them, where they would get one thing to work and they'd get 3 other things to break until they come up with some other ad hoc thing to make those things work, and then they break the first thing. After about 2 years of that, they just said, okay, well, we just don't have a model at all, which means they lost all predictive capability. And that's what you do when you try to disprove something, is you try to find things that are internally contradictory. And the flat Earth is rife with it. I haven't seen anybody try to present anything for a globe Earth that contradicts anything that the globe Earth says. So, carry on.
That one of the things is, so if everybody in this chat gave me their latitudes and longitudes, I could very accurately calculate the distances between you using a formula from a sphere, right? And I could get very good estimates. And I guarantee, if you gave me the latitudes and the longitudes of your nearest major airports, I could calculate the distance between them using the same formula, and I'd get it pretty much right. And we use this information all the time. If you want to know how much fuel to put on a plane, you need to know how far it's traveling in order to need, and so these spherical calculations that we do, they work. They're quite accurate, demonstrably. But flat earthers cannot, based only on latitude and longitude, give you an estimate of how far stuff is away from one another. They just can't do it. There's no mechanism for it. So if the Earth is actually flat, it should be very simple to give me the formula for the distance, and my spherical formula just shouldn't work at all. But instead, my spherical formula works quite accurately, and there just exists no flat Earth formula to solve this problem. And that's and when you're trying to come up with stuff that explains, like when you're trying to explain stuff. Why do planes work? Why, back in the age of sail, were people able to work out accurately how much water and food they needed to make a particular sea journey, if their estimates of the distances they were sailing were completely wrong? People have been able to do stuff using these formula for ages and ages, and every time it's worked out. So, there have been accidents and that sort of stuff, but the formula themselves remain accurate. So it just seems weird to me that it's one of the things that I would suggest you look into is how we are able to accurately calculate positions and distances and navigate.
Right, Rachel, you got anything?
Yeah, I was just going back to that rotation with the 69 degrees where you move 69 miles and then it changes by 1 degree in the sky. I was just thinking, well, shouldn't it change more than that if we're rotating as well? Because that's like stationary, isn't it? It's not taking into account any rotation.
No, because it's above the pole of rotation, so it doesn't move with respect to the rotational pole. Well, it doesn't move quickly. There is in fact a change in Earth's axis of rotation, but there are some very small wobbles and perturbations of that, and then there's a long-term drift of that axis of rotation, but that they are very small and very slow on the timescales we're talking about. So no, that won't. That will have a small impact on the, a very tiny impact on the elevation, but not a very large one. It'll be much smaller than the accuracy of the height estimates. So.
Okay.
Sean, I have one question.
The Earth is a globe.
Okay, go ahead.
Sean, I remember you were talking about your model. I know I had a discrepancy with the height that you had the sun, but taking that away, what was your diameter that you said you gave the sun again in your model?
Diameter of the sun? I used a golf ball.
Okay.
Because at the time, the commonly accepted model at the time was the sun was only 32 miles wide. Yeah, it was a little bit larger than what the model said, but I used a smaller ball to use the moon, and I couldn't use the same thing for both things. But the results, pretty damn close.
All right.
Anything else?
I think we've just converted two flat earthers.
Well, I think if I were them, I'd want to go away and do some more research and look at some stuff and that sort of thing. But what I would like to say is that they've both come into this with just astonishing intellectual honesty, and they've not been afraid to ask questions, and they deserve kudos for that.
Thank you, Tony.
No problem.
Thank you.
I mean,
I did have a few more points
honestly,
though.
Yeah, go on.
When we were on about the vomit comet last time and how you say that everything's weightless when it's in free fall, but when they actually start to
Mhm.
free fall down, that's when they actually hit the floor on the vomit comet. So they're not actually weightless inside the vomit comet at that point, which I still don't understand that.
Well, right, that's to do more with when you're under powered flight or not. So when they're going up on their parabolic flight, right? Once they reach the point where they start going into the apex, that is when you are weightless, right? It's when you're no longer accelerating upwards, and it's starting to fall back down. You're no longer powered upwards. It's as you reach the apex, that's when you're going to feel the weightlessness. So
hold on.
there will actually tend to time when you're going up that you will also be weightless.
No, I believe you're weightless the moment you go ballistic. Because you're under
That's what I
only
mean. As soon as the
gravitational.
powered bit stops.
Yeah. I thought you said at your apex.
As soon as the powered part of it.
Okay, I see.
No.
You're talking
Well,
about the parabolic
only
flight.
because you're reaching.
I thought you meant something that you threw. Like, let's say you took a ball and you threw it up in the air.
No.
I came in late. I just went to use the restroom. I came in late, and I just thought, my bad. Ignore me.
Okay. All right.
No,
as always.
So,
my point is that when you're going up on the parabolic arc, you're obviously powered up. But as soon as you stop that power pushing you upwards, you're technically ballistic, and that's the point that you become weightless as you're reaching towards the apex of the parabolic flight.
The takeaway from that is that is not a silly question, Rachie. So
no, absolutely not.
You keep on asking quite good questions. Some of them I think are a little bit out of sequence because you need to sort of work up a little bit to Einsteinian and relativistic effects. But
let me ask something real quick, because Rachie, you said earlier you brought up eddy currents, and then I went into the explanation, and we never talked about why you brought those eddy currents up. Why did you bring those up earlier? And do we need to explain anything?
Sorry.
Sorry, basically I was just thinking that it could have something to do with the masses apparently attracting the masses with the Cavendish experiment, or like the way that things orbit each other, if there is like space and things are orbiting things.
Well, why would things that don't generate eddy currents, why would they be attracted to anything at that point?
I don't really understand it. I was just thinking of something like eddy currents and magnetism or diamagnetism and things like that.
Yeah, okay, so
if it all comes together in one way.
So gravity is not doesn't really have a charge. So it attracts everything, right? Or it doesn't have like an electrical charge. It attracts everything. It doesn't repel anything. Whereas electricity and like magnetism, electromagnetism, they have charges that cause them to either attract or repel. So you'll never see on Earth something being repelled by the mass of the Earth. You will always see things being attracted to the mass of the Earth, and that's because gravity's not really a force. It's just a matter of the curvature of space-time and things wanting to travel in a straight line through curved space-time.
Yeah. So if you drop a magnet...
Go ahead, Rachel.
Go on, Tony.
Sorry. If you drop a magnet or if you drop a charged object outside of a strong magnetic field or a strong electrical field, they'll fall at the same rate. Whereas if gravity were due to some electromagnetic force, then objects with different magnetic or electrical electrical charges or magnetic strengths, innate magnetic strengths, would fall at different rates. And that's not what we observe. We observe that they fall at a consistent rate. So we conclude on that basis that there's no reason to suspect that these are electromagnetic in origin. Yeah.
Plus, we'd be able to detect them. Like, we'd be able to detect it with. It would be the devices that we have that are EM sensitive would be ineffective within if the Earth's gravitational field was really due to some sort of electromagnetism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's an alternative. It's an alternative worth discussing, but it has been explored and it has been considered. So.
Yeah, these concepts are pretty well known and to like people that have degrees. They can easily tell you why. I mean, just looking at gravity versus Coulomb's law. There's a Coulomb's law, I believe, gravity has a negative before it, right? Because it's always attracting, or it's not Coulomb's law that has a negative before it, is it?
Well, I think it's Coulomb's law that has the negative, but don't worry.
Why am I getting this wrong?
We love you. Your incompetence is charming.
No, I want to tell you something. This is not making an excuse for myself, but I want everybody to know what I've been through in the past fucking 36 hours. I went to have dinner last night with Johnny O and the Plot Hole and J.O. Warren, and my battery died on the way I got my battery light halfway between them. He lives about like 30 minutes away. So I get there, I'm like, I make the decision to go ahead and go out there because the guy at AutoZone says, yeah, you can make it. I'm like, okay. I go out there, I drive back, car dies on the way back, right? J.O. Warren was following me. I asked him to follow me, so he picked me up, took me home. I didn't have my car, nor had I remembered where the fuck we left my car. So today, I didn't sleep because the only person that could help me was... Dead serious, Tony. Dead serious. You can ask J.O. Warren. He's in the fucking chat right now. He'll tell you I called him today and said, where the fuck did we leave my car at? Because dude, okay. So then I get there. I finally find my car after 2 hours of searching because the store I parked in front of, it listed every fucking store of that name in the area except the store that I parked in front of. So I just said, fuck it, just go ahead and drive back. I've not been to sleep in 36 hours right now. I woke up at like 3 o'clock after a late night gameplay. I'm struggling right now, fellas. Like that's the real deal right now. Is I'm struggling to actually maintain coherent thought, to be honest with you guys, like to concentrate. So I do apologize if I get something wrong tonight.
We need to interpret.
Dude,
what you're saying
exactly
is what you're saying is that we need to forgive your intellectual incompetence because there is a larger brand of intellectual incompetence that you have been suffering from over the past 36 hours.
Yeah, okay, but if we're to forgive his intellectual incompetence for this time, what's the excuse for all the other times?
Yeah, no, the other times there are no excuse for. Right now, that's why my artwork is exceptionally good right now, is because I'm in that like euphoric state of not being asleep and not being really fully awake at this point. So, yeah, it's been an interesting day today, to say the least. And
you're also sowing the seeds for not being on Team Skeptic After Dark.
No, I'm gonna be on that. I'm gonna do like. No, I'm gonna do like about a 2-hour stream on.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up so we can.
Hey, honestly, I need to hit my 1,000 subscribers. So everybody out there, if you're fucking, let me share my fucking thing. That's what's going on back here. I want y'all to know something. On my Team Skeptic After Dark stream, you guys control everything. You control noises behind me. It blows up in my ear and shit. So there's my channel. Subscribe to me so I can get my 1,000 subscribers so I can actually start making the 1 penny per view that everybody makes. But okay.
1 per view? Fucking, that's good for YouTube, mate.
Well, that's after super chats come in and all that. It's 1 penny per view for me. But yes, please guys, go sub to that. Let's fucking party over there. I will be delusionally tired tonight, so I will be getting killed. I'm not going to stay up all night.
You're going to be worse than normal. I'm going to have to carry you again.
I'm not going to stay up all night. Bella Charger, I'm sure, will be there too. But yeah, let's just talk for a little bit longer with Rachie and Keith, and then we'll get over there. We'll knock out some fucking. We'll go kill some flat Earth Call of Duty players. So Keith, Rachie.
Yes.
What can we answer for you again tonight? And we'll do our best to answer. What is your biggest question when it comes to the globe Earth that just doesn't make sense to you?
Okay, I'll go first. Basically, I've seen your debate with one of the Nathans. I'm not sure if it's Nathan Arkley or Nathan Thompson in a tattoo shop, and he showed you a picture where you could see the top of the building over the horizon. Yeah, probably that one. And you can see the top of the building, but you can't see the bottom. I was thinking, if you was at the bottom of that building on the seashore, like, why can't you see rising up, so like it looks like a tsunami wave almost.
I'm going to turn this over to Sean Hufford because Sean Hufford is actually very well versed in that observation. Sean, are you still with us?
Yeah, I missed it. What was it?
She's asking about the dunes observations where you can see the tops of the buildings but not the bottom.
Oh,
right. You're talking about the you're talking about the view of the Chicago skyline that he showed. Jay Tolan's observations, I think, is the guy's name.
The
is that
whole
what you're
it's
talking
a
about,
mirage
Richard?
thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually done by.
He wasn't saying it was a mirage from what I gathered, but I'm just saying, like, if you was on the shore at the bottom of that building, why wouldn't you see the sea up above you? Because if it's hiding the building and it's up above the building, so it's like hiding the building, why wouldn't you look at from out at the bottom of the building and see the sea up?
Well, I've actually been to Warren Dunes myself, where me and Red's Rhetoric took P900s to the top of the dunes, and then we took one down to the like maybe 20 feet off of the waterline. And yeah, you can't see much of the buildings at all from down by the water.
No, but I mean, if you was at the bottom, if say you've got the picture like that he was showing where the half of the building's missing, if you was on the other side of that, where at the bottom of that building where you can't be seen because you're apparently behind the curve, why wouldn't you see the sea rise up? Because it's hiding half the buildings, it should rise up above you, like if you was at the bottom of that building, if that makes sense.
Why would it have to rise up? The fact of the matter is the buildings are going further behind the curve. When you're the closer to the water you get,
so they're going lower over the curve. So
but
you
the
should be
water's
at a
not
lower
rising.
standing at the bottom.
But the water's not rising up because the whole time the water's below your eye line, the entire time.
But it looks like it's rising up when you look at the building because it's missing half the building.
Kind of like a hallway, Sean.
I stumped you.
So if I can make a point there, so there's I think Rachel, you're a little bit confused about the geometry of what's being suggested, and a lot of people when they hear about the bulge of the Earth, they expect that that means the water must be rising higher than the eye line of the observer, but actually it's more a matter of if.
Yeah. Okay. Let me jump in because I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Go ahead, Tony. Go ahead. I see you're about to do a graphic demonstration. I'll let you do that because I was about to explain the same thing you are. So go ahead.
So if I'm here and I'm looking down at my other finger over here, part of that is hidden by the curve of the mouse here, but the mouse is always below me, right? It's not like the water is above. And similarly, when I'm over here, I'm actually on top of that curve, right? It's not that the water is above me. So down is this local thing, right? And it changes direction as you move around the curve. And that's the key thing. If you think in a two-dimensional fashion and say, well, the water, in order to hide it, the water must be coming up, the water must be rising. You've sort of stepped away from the actual geometry. The actual geometry is that you've got this curve and you're looking around the curve, and everything is going to look down. From this observer, this is down. From this observer, this is that's down. So there's no. I think you just need to sort of get a basketball and put some stuff on it and say, okay, this is this person, this is what they see, and then rotate it so that this is what the other person sees. And I think if you do that, you'll get a better idea that, no, we're not saying that the water is higher in between.
Yeah.
In between the two observers. Does that make any sense? I realize
what flat earthers say.
Huh?
I missed that. What was that?
What'd you say, Fight?
I think I was just pointing out that the problem is that all the flat earthers spout these things like, oh, there should be a bulge of water, blah blah blah, and it muddies the water of what the actual truth of the matter is. Don't listen to what the flat earthers are saying. Actually think about it from for yourself, and try to on a basketball or something, rather than just listening to flat earthers parrot things like, oh, there should be a bulge of water in the way, because they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it broke my brain when she said that water rises like that.
Yeah, well, we're guilty of it too, because we talk of things like bulges, and we talk of things like drops, and and up and down, and we use these relative concepts to sort of get the geometry right, but actually up and down are only defined locally, like they're defined exactly where we are, and as soon as you start sort of moving out on a tangent or moving across the Earth's surface, down is a completely different direction. And talking about the drop to the horizon, in my opinion, is deeply misleading. There's a lot of terminology that we use routinely to try and explain stuff that actually reinforces the two-dimensional aspect of thinking. So I think it's a bit more profound a problem than just the flat earthers saying stuff. We use terms that are misleading, that don't give an accurate, and we do it because it just makes it easy to converse, right?
English language isn't suitable for a lot of things, is it? You can't use the English language to explain mathematical concepts. Yeah, that's right. So when we talk about level, water is level, as opposed to the mean the mean upper surface position of water conforms to the equipotential surface in that region. We say level because it's a lot shorter than the stuff I spouted after that, and it communicates much the same concept. But if we were being technically correct, we would actually say this is what we mean. This is the geometry that water surface adopts, so there's a lot of stuff that our language allows misinterpretations and confusion, and we need to be very precise about how we say things to untangle it all.
Just right quick, the couple things I wanted to bring up. For FE, I think what it tends to be, like when she was bringing up, we look at it like, okay, when you're down in a long hallway, it seems that the bottom comes up and the top comes down. So she was more coming. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think she was coming at it from that aspect. And on top of that, how is it that we do see so clearly at that bottom from you guys' perspective when it comes to that whole video?
Well, you don't see the bottom of the buildings.
So my argument, when you're trying to interpret a photograph or an optical image, there are a number of things going on. There are atmospheric effects, there are effects in the camera, there are lighting effects, there are multiple things that go into the interpretation of an optical image. And the way refraction works, it can cause us to see things in ways that perhaps we shouldn't, at distances that we wouldn't normally expect to see an object. But in unusual refractive conditions, we can see that object at that distance. And it's worth noting that a lot of these photographs are taken in conditions that are going to maximize the refractive impact. Yeah. For instance, across a large body of water, low to the body of water, on particular days where you get the right humidity and temperature conditions.
Right.
Excuse you. And so,
bless you.
Sorry. I agree that and from my perspective, being an Earth scientist, I wouldn't use optical images anywhere near as much as either the flat earthers or the flat Earth debunkers do.
I try not to accept them. I try not to accept it unless it has proper measurements to go along with it.
Yeah. There are a lot of
a flat earther will chuck a picture at you and, oh look, this picture you can see too far. And then they give very little information about it. They won't tell you the height of the observer. They won't tell you the temperature on the day. You need to know these things to be able to work out the refractive conditions, because we have quantified refraction. We understand refraction very, very well. It's been studied a lot. I've personally emailed with the world leading expert in refraction, Dr. Young. And it's something that we understand extremely well. And if we have the right data, then we can explain why you can see a particular observation. And this is a challenge out to all flat earthers many times. Show me one picture where you can actually see too far. Give me the correct data for it, and I guarantee you I will be able to show you how we can see that far. Because there is nothing that you could see too far if we know why we're seeing it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it here, because I know there's going to be some super chats out there that are directed to them, and maybe some of them are going to be a few questions, and I'd like to get through them still with them having enough time to answer them or look further into them after the show. Ilya Moon for $5. Today was a good day, and this is a great stream to end on. That's because Sit Down with Debunkers crossed 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations to Ilya Moon and the rest of the crew, like Punchy and Roxy and all those great people over there. Wonderful people. Had me on a recent live stream, and it was actually really fun. Jessica G, $2. Thanks, team. Thanks for coming. Said no one ever. Fuck off. Oh no. I know I'm gonna have a good stream because Jessica G will be there to fucking hate on me, so it's gonna be great. Jessica G for $2. Get your barf bags ready, folks. Team Skeptic's face in 5 minutes. Oh shit. Jessica G for $2. Hope FTFE is here. We're trying to stay undefeated. Oh, the looks jokes, no big deal. The gap teeth jokes, no big deal. The skinny Skeletor jokes, hey, I don't mind. The light not reacting with me, it's my way of staying cool. You know what I'm saying? But to fucking say that my presence without FTFE would result in a defeat, cuts me deep, Jessica.
It's 100% true.
Fucking cuts me goddamn deep. Rangerman 9404.
Let's face it, team, you're the only person to lose a debate to Nathan Thompson.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, not according to Nathan Thompson. Nathan Thompson thinks he's beat everybody, and then he tells people he's beat me more and more and more times because people, I guess he thinks he won. But, yeah, there's not flat, so how'd you win that debate, my friend? Rangerman 9404 for $5. My buddy's an idiot because he went most of the summer with no AC because he didn't notice the switch was upside down. Yeah, I talked about this, Rangerman. Having bias when you've done something for so long and you think you know a field of study. Like, I'm pretty decent with electrician work. I don't go and try to change transformers and shit, but if something small broke in my house, like a switch or a TV or something, I could easily fix it. But the moment you see a switch in the down position, your first instinct is always, yep, it's off. You just think of it. And I did, and I was fucking totally just dumbfounded by it. I went the entire summer with no AC because my landlord installed that thing upside down. What's up?
Right. My dad always told me, never assume. It makes an ass out of you and me.
Yeah, right. And hey, speaking of My Buddy's an Idiot, we're gonna have to do that again coming up because I miss My Buddy's an Idiot. And yeah, I need to do that. Ilya Moon for $5. We can have
Chatbot Lady on tonight in the gaming stream and get her to read out all of My Buddies and Idiots.
Oh yeah, we could do that. In gaming stream tonight, we'll do My Buddy's an Idiot with Chatbot Lady. You guys will love it. Ilya Moon for $5. FTFE showed me today he loves me more. Thank you, FT, for your unwavering support. Ilya, I just went through why I was not on the show today. I was hunting down my car. Oh, and that's not even the best part, guys. I was 21 minutes away from my house. Took about an hour and a half to get home because every 7 minutes I would have to stop my car and charge it for 20 minutes using my brother's car. Yes, it was one of those days. And now I probably don't have an alternator in my car, which is a whole different thing, but that'll be covered. Don't worry about that. I was just saying, sometimes life shits on you and you need to hold the snow cone out and just close your eyes and imagine it's fucking chocolate ice cream, okay? Just close your eyes. Imagine this chocolate ice cream. Just eat this shit and get to tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a better day. I promise you.
You're gonna notice that.
And I do owe you, Ilya.
And for those of you in the chat, the word of the day is coprophage. Coprophage. You're welcome.
What? I thought it was explorator.
No, coprophage.
I'm about to-
COPROPHAGE.
I'm about to look up explorator and see if that's an actual word. I think I made up a real word. Also, once again, if you haven't subscribed there goes subscribe to Team Skeptic After Dark. All right, explorator.
No. Google says, do you mean exploratory?
No, look! Community.fantasyflightgames.com. The best mechanics character, RT Explorator.
Yes.
Oh, it's
Yes,
Explorator. Explorator. Hold on, I just added an extra or to it. No big deal. America.
Oh,
Yes.
you and the extra
Derived
voice.
from the well-known English word explorate.
All right, so yeah, I'm dumb, guys. Well, I make up words that are awesome. Jaybird Max.
Tony,
ahead.
just to clarify, does that require a dirt-covered loofah?
No. Yes, people have worked out what that means. So I have expanded everybody's vocabulary. You're welcome.
Oh God, Citizen9 says Team Skeptic, is that the same car you put up in your challenge? No wonder no one took you up on it. Okay, so we gotta let Keith and Rachie know what happened. So when I debated Nathan Thompson, of course the whole thing was, their biggest thing was, oh, Team Skeptic's a meth head, he was on drugs. And I was like, I've never done those drugs. I mean, I smoke shit out some weed, but I've never done hard drugs in my life. And I said, okay, if you guys are so fucking confident, like if you think you know for sure that I was on meth, put $1,000 up and I'll give you my car if I fail a drug test with anything other than weed. And I'll let them test me for anything other than weed and I'll pass 100%. Nobody would take me up on that.
And here's the thing, guys.
They don't
the
really
reason
believe
the team
that.
looks like that isn't because he smokes meth. It's because he's undergoing chemotherapy for aggressive cancer.
No, it's not. Don't even fucking say that. It's fucked up. Go to my appointment tomorrow. Jessica G for $2 if I can get me an alternator, that is. We also have a good time when team stops talking. Oh, thank you, Jessica G. You know we love you. Solixis also became, oh, and then we missed a new member, I'm sorry. Jaybird Max, a new member, became a Rage Dinger. Everybody, you know what to do. Share those emojis, baby. And on the next time around, I'll have my emojis. I'll have my emojis loaded up in my Stream Deck, so all I gotta do is push a button, and I'll push the button, and that shit'll just fucking work. Now, see, I can't even fucking put my own emojis up. That's how tired I am, guys. I can't even put my own emojis up. Just don't stare at the Mankini, the Team Skeptic and the Mankini, please. Keith, have you bought your Team Skeptic Mankini shirt yet?
No, man, not yet.
What are you doing, bro? You know, wearing that shirt in public will get you all the women, bro. All the women. Or men, hey, however you're, or men, I don't care. That's your deal. But bro, nah, those don't do justice. We need to show off the man. Look at that. You see that? Hold on. If you can see the chat right now, everybody spam the chat with my Mankini, so when Keith looks back on this, he can see what he's missing out on a T-shirt, of course. Looking's free, touching's gonna cost you, and that goes for anybody. So that's me in the Mankini right there, if you could see the chat. But yeah, you need to get that shirt, man. Definitely, that's a 10 of 10 gaming move when you do that. Solixis, also a new member. Everybody share those emojis, including the Nathan Thompson in jail emoji. Look at that. If you become a member, you too can fucking plaster that jackass's face all over the internet behind bars. Good shit, guys. I love y'all. Jessica G, another $2. Hashtag save Rachie from Team Skeptic. I
think we've done it today, like.
Rachie, are you convinced the Earth's not flat? I was gonna say not a globe, but not flat. Oh yeah, good. I got something.
I don't know. I'm like, still have a few doubts, but I'm more. I don't know. I'm more sure it's probably round, but I don't know. It seems so flat that it can't be round, but evidence-wise, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look more and think more about it.
I think everybody wants
questions for you.
Yeah, everybody wants this to be an instantaneous process, and it doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be. You need to get into the evidence and look at it and make sure, rather than responding instantly. So I think Rachel's got the right attitude. You were about to say something, Keith, and I barged in.
I was just going to say, stay strong, Rachel.
I'll try.
Come on, Keith. You can't tell us that after today you still think like 100% that you're like. There's no way that with all the evidence we've shown you today that can still be the prime idea in your head.
There have to be some doubts.
Hey, look,
I have a.
Go ahead, Keith.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, I do have some ideas. I think the main thing, like I brought up for us, is that we're going based off of like the math that I would say from Eratosthenes, basically from the experiment he did. We're going off of that math, so it's going to give those numbers. But I'm not going to cut you off with what you're saying. I do have to, like I say, I'm going to go into it further, and then I'll just see what I see.
All right, so I got something I want you guys to see real quick, and this comes from Kiwi in the chat. I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to admit to who that is there. But if you can see that on your screen there, Rachie and Keith, let me turn your resolution up. Good picture. That's what we're talking about. That's how you go. That's how you go out in style, bro. That guy. Anybody that he wants to talk to, he walks up with extreme confidence wearing that shirt right there. Nobody's gonna fuck with him. You know when you
knowing that he is protected by three dogs who will.
Oh, it's the shirt. It's the shirt. Yeah,
it's the shirt. Okay.
Let me tell you something.
Look,
if you ever don't want to
I'm pretty sure that's Damien Dark. I'm pretty sure that's Damien Dark from Legends of Tomorrow, right?
If you know how, like, they say, like, if you're ever getting in a situation where you're about to fight somebody and you really don't want to fight, just start stripping. And they're like, hell no, don't touch that naked guy. Get ready to start running away, right? He doesn't even have to strip. He just puts on the shirt, and they don't want to fuck with him. I'm like, fuck this. No, but that is that's one of our Kiwis. Commander Darklight out in the chat right now. Thank you, sir, very much. He said I could share this picture with you guys of someone actually wearing the mankini outside of the mental hospital that they are forced to live in. The mankini shirt. All right, let's see.
Commander Darklight is an awesome individual. I just want to put that out there.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Thank you very much for your for everything you do for me, sir. On top of that, he's in my fucking. He always harasses me in my fucking gaming chat. That is where I love to see you guys, because that's like the more close and personal time that I get to really chat with y'all, and there's not 300 plus people that are in the chat, and I can't really follow it that well. The Athens 619 for $5. The only time when something moves faster than gravity is when you poop food from Taco Bell. I'm telling you right now, I'm not pooping food from Taco Bell, but my things, every time I pee, it feels like my butt is crying out a little capsaicin tear, a tear of
in Scotland we refer to that as the. In Scotland, we refer to that as the ring sting.
Yeah, it is the ring sting right now. I was just wondering who fed me fucking razor blades last night. Average Joe for £5. Oddly, I'm not attracted to fat chicks. Explain that, science. Sorry, poor joke. You must not be skinny enough. There's always the dichotomy of the little guys and the big girls. I mean, I have no problem with them, so... Marco Hrvojic for 10 Herculean dollars.
God, you butchered that name.
Marco Hrvojic. Hrvojic. Marco Hrvojic for, what is HRK? Holland
Hungarian.
dollars?
No, Hungarian.
Hungarian monies. Sure. Hello, guys. I'm here. Did I miss something? Actually, this was from quite a while ago at 7 o'clock. What you probably missed was the polite introduction of these two magnificent people that we have on our panel tonight, and also Fight the Flat Earth and Tony and Sean, the non-magnificents. All right, Oliver Eskren for 26. Off topic, but can Flat Earth explain the midnight sun? No, I think that's right on topic there, Oliver. How do you guys explain stuff like the midnight sun? In we'll say in the northern pole, for instance.
Who do you want to go first?
You got it, Rachel? You got it.
HRK is Croatian.
Well, for me,
Sorry,
I
Reggie.
don't really subscribe to a flat Earth. That's okay. I don't really subscribe to a flat Earth model, but I was thinking like maybe it goes around, like when you have darkness in Antarctica and you're supposed to have it for 6 months, maybe it goes like halfway along the Earth and it doesn't reach, the light doesn't reach that end for 6 months, and then it travels in a different path almost.
Why would the
and
light
then the
not
same
reach
again
them?
with the North Pole.
Can you
Because
explain
you
to
can
me why
only
the
see
light?
so far.
What do you mean by
So
that?
the light would only reach so far.
But I mean, there's light is a pretty well understood phenomenon. So when you say something like it wouldn't go very far, being that okay, so I don't want to get too technical in it, but it's what we have shown is that if we move an electric field, right, it creates a moving magnetic field, which in turn creates a moving electric field, which in turn creates a moving magnetic field, and so forth and so forth and so forth. This is why light, it's really not wise to say that light can't travel a certain distance unless you're saying for a particular reason. So if you say light can't travel a certain distance because the atmospheric conditions cause the light to be absorbed by the atmosphere, and there's just a point at which you can't see the light anymore. Or if you say, oh, well, refraction of the atmosphere, that's why you can't see the light anymore. But when you say that light just gets tired, for instance, or just doesn't make it all the way there, you're not really giving a good explanation, because that part of light, which is well understood, is completely incorrect.
Well, for me, I'd say it's more like
That's where it takes us.
so far. So if you was in Antarctica, you can only see so far, and you wouldn't be able to see as far as where that sunlight reaches because of your eyes, not because of the light, though.
But have you given me a reason why, or is your position still just that you shouldn't be able to see it?
I haven't really thought much about it, but I just thought there was a limit, like of either how far the light goes away, how far you can see.
So can I ask a question? Okay, let's go back to the screw you. I'm going to anyway. Imagine that the Earth is a disk. It's a flat disk, and Antarctica is smeared around the outside. So how does the light?
Is around the outside.
Oh, okay, all right. So that, but that is the most standard model, right? Is that Antarctica is smeared around the outside? So you're saying that you believe that okay, all right. So then what I was about to say is completely meaningless, and you can ignore it. So
okay.
There's about 2 or 3 models out there.
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 models, and it would be helpful if we could have a model that we could that was a standard model that we could compare against the globe, the spheroidal model of the Earth to sort of compare. So it would be nice if that were the case.
Right. Just one more thing. This is where I was also saying, this is where it just takes us getting into the physics so that we can explain these things for the way that you guys understand them. Because just like when Skeptic was bringing up, well, are you saying it's refraction? Are you saying it's diffusion? Like, what is it? Like, what's going on? So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I really think that just sort of some introductory physics is really going to help sort of clarify where we're coming from, and give us some common ground that we can explain things to one another quite clearly.
Now, I'd like to point out.
I think it'd be helpful.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you weren't done talking, Tony. Go ahead.
No, I am.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'd like to point out that when you said, Keith, there's 2 or 3 models out there, that should be your first red flag that something with that way of thinking is incorrect. Because we should not have a, let's say you and I came to a discussion and we said, okay, I'm going to bring some evidence, right? And I show up with a globe Earth or a model globe Earth, right? And I say, I'm going to do all my explanations using this one model of the globe Earth, and I'm going to do my best using this model. It might not be perfect, but I'm going to do my best, okay? And then you show up and you say, well, when you ask this question, I'm going to use this model. And I'm not saying you in particular, I'm saying the flat Earth community as a whole. I say, well, what about this observation?
Right.
So, well, let me use this model. Well, what about this observation? Well, let me use this model. Well, what about this observation? Well, there's this model for that observation. There's no one consistent, cohesive model that can be used to generally describe every observation, even though we have on the globe Earth a consistent model that generally describes everything we see and experience. There are some anomalies that do need to be explained with things like refraction. When you say, I see this place, it's too far. If you're on a globe and you're here and you're looking here, well, there should be some amount of the Earth between when you're looking with direct line of sight. But for some reason, I can still see laser lights and microwave radiation and whatever the case may be for these very these individualistic observations, that aren't conducive to a normal or aren't conducive to like normal observations. It's got some additional factors involved that would cause you to see something that you would not normally see, like extensive refraction or even refraction in the opposite direction, where you're seeing, like the mirages where the boats look like they're floating in the air. Now, you and I can both agree there's no boats that float in the air, right? I mean, all the boats are sitting in the water. But why are we seeing the boat in the air? Well, there's something going on there that it doesn't mean that the Earth is no longer flat or a globe. It's now concave. It just means under those observations, under those conditions, that observation was able to be made, and it needs an explanation. But the globe model describes to a T 99.9% of any observation you're going to make, you alone can make, or you and a friend can make.
Right.
All right. Let's see. Petermus Prime for 5 Aussie dollars. If F equals ma, then gravity has to be a thing. Therefore, it is impossible for the Earth to be flat. Simple. And yeah, that's one of the things. Of course, me and Tony spoke about this the other day privately about the significance of ma. If you take the time, Keith, to learn all the implication of those 4 fucking symbols when put together like that, you will begin your journey into understanding more complicated physics such as gravity, rotational physics, my live stream's popping up and down over here. I'm sorry. We got to end this. YouTube. I think YouTube's getting ready to close my live stream down again. I'm seeing a bunch of errors. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Just if you just go out and start with F equals ma and build from that one concept, learn that concept as much as possible, and then build from that concept to make the rest of understanding physics much, much easier. Petermus Prime. I just read that. Yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
I was going to say, can I actually ask you a question about that F equals ma? F is the force, so you say things move with a force, but light moves and it's not got mass. So how can it be a force if it's not mass times acceleration?
Okay, so light has energy, okay? Now there's the equation that we're all really familiar with, E equals mc squared, is really not the full equation. The full equation is E squared equals n squared times c to the 4th plus p squared c squared, where p is the momentum of the... where P is the momentum, or I don't know if they consider it rho or not. I'm going to call it P for right now. P is the momentum of the light, okay? So when you have a massless particle, first off, massless particles do exist. They're called bosons. They move at one speed and only one speed through space, and that's at the speed c. So so when you have F equals ma, you're not really talking about it in the same sense. You could still derive that from this equation, because then you can also get, first off, light doesn't accelerate. Light moves at a constant velocity. So F equals ma, I I don't know that you could really apply that too much to light in a classical sense, but there are applications that derive from F equals ma when you get to talking more along the lines of the energy that light has regarding its momentum. Go ahead, Tony. You're the mathematician and physicist here.
So what I would suggest is, again, the principles by which light moves and operates are actually quite advanced, and it wasn't, so the theory of gravity, for instance, was developed in the 17th century, but a complete theory of light wasn't developed until the 19th century, 200 years later. In terms of complexity, light, electromagnetic radiation works in a more complicated way. And that's an excellent point, but it doesn't invalidate F equals ma. Again, the macroscopic systems were the first systems that we studied, and they're the systems that we understand the best. And we quickly worked out that a lot of the things we thought we knew from studying macroscopic systems don't apply to electromagnetic radiation or on a quantum level. And so we had to expand our concept of physics to understand those. But that doesn't mean that F equals ma is not a really fundamental and important equation for dealing with macroscopic non-relativistic phenomena. So daily life, F equals ma is pretty much the most important formula you can have. So it is really profound, and it's important to all of the engineering we do. All of the buildings that stand up, all of the vehicles that work, all of our ability to move large masses, and the stuff we do on a daily basis, that all comes from how well we understand F equals ma. So and while physics does need to be extended to consider these other phenomena, there's no hole there. There's no gap.
It's very similar to the difference between Isaac Newton and Einstein's concepts of gravity. It is fundamentally different, but at the 99.9% of the time, you're not going to even use general relativity. General relativity is going to be used by somebody who's working with relativistic mass, relativistic speeds, or you're looking at different gravitational potentials. There's just other places where you will need the black hole science. Some of the planetary orbits that are much closer, rotating massive bodies. That's another place that you would get it, where you get frame dragging. There are places. We are approaching a time in technology where understanding that it's not just F equals ma when it comes to gravity at a very more of a extremely fundamental level. Like when you're really getting down to the brass tacks of physics, you're really going to be dealing with stuff that is more, that follows more of the Schrodinger equation, and then you can derive everything from just the Schrodinger's equation. But at the same time, then you're like, I don't even want to look at that shit. I'd rather just deal with F equals ma. That's fucking simple.
Just to sort of, sometimes it is important to include these effects. For instance, GPS satellites and GPS signals do have to correct for relativistic effects and the propagation of the waves from the satellites to your receiver, to your phone, or whatever it is. These things need to be correct. Your phone probably doesn't correct for ionospheric effects or whatever. But if you want really precise locations and velocities, then you do need to correct for this stuff. So there are points where if you really want a precise result, you do need to take this into account. But in general, you don't need to be that precise. So, and this is,
and we do have
this is
go ahead.
Well, to me, this is a central thing. One of the first things you realize when you get into science is that nothing is perfectly known. Nothing is perfect. None of our models are perfect. There are errors in all of our models, and the science comes from quantifying those errors. So how certain are we in our result? And F equals ma works so precisely in the majority of our applications that we accept it as a valid physical principle. So yeah.
I was explained to it that laws are typically written under ideal circumstances. So when you're talking about F equals ma, you're talking about an ideal circumstance where F equals ma applies, where you fully understand all the variables, any kind of resistance that might be there. Like if you're talking about, I'm pushing a ball through atmosphere, well, you're going to have some kind of atmospheric drag. Whether you can feel it or not, it's still going to be there. So if you get a slightly different reading and you're like, oh shit, why am I getting a slightly different reading? Well, you probably don't have a complete understanding of where you're trying to apply the law. The law works as the scientific law then works as just a framework for you to follow to get a generalized answer given an ideal circumstance. One of the best is called the ideal gas law. The ideal gas law, it doesn't take gravity into effect at all, but we live in inside of gravity. So does the ideal gas law then not apply? Well, no, it still applies. You can still make predictions based on the ideal gas law, but at the same time you have to understand that it is a law and it works under ideal circumstances. F equals ma typically breaks down at relativistic speeds and whatnot. And we also have Clive Wells in the chat who says he uses general relativity regularly. Well, we always got to have one person out there that's a regular GR guy.
Yeah. I always feel stupid discussing any sort of detailed physics in front of Clive Wells because he knows a lot more. I'm a geophysicist, so I know a lot about earth sciences, but my understanding of a lot of fundamental physics is a bit shallow, and I kind of feel like Clive is perhaps the person to talk to, or Phil Bell, one of those two.
Phil Bell's really intelligent. Jessica G for $2. Team Skeptic is nerd raging. I saw this chat come in, Jessica G. That was when fucking YouTube just shut down my fucking stream. Yes, I was nerd raging at the time. Super hard. King Ed the Fifth, Ed V. For $5. The reason for the Shahelian experiment was because they noticed a deflection of the plumb bob when surveying for the Mason-Dixon line. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, see, we just thanks Bob everywhere, right? J.L. Warren for $4.99. That's like claiming cetaceans don't exist. I think it means, I don't know if he's talking cetaceans, cretaceans don't exist. Then boycotting SeaWorld for their treatments of whales.
Yeah,
must mean cetaceans. Cetaceans.
He must mean cetaceans. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought maybe he was trying to say crustaceans until I read the rest of it. The Snark for €2. Super is chat and Earth is not flat. Duh. Irish Demon for $2.99 Aussie. Sorry I'm late. Nice hat, dweeboyd. Sup, Rachy. Oh, Irish. I don't know if you saw the first half of the stream, but I was wearing my Irish Demon gift, guys. Look at this. He sent me fucking look. I decided to wear the NASA shirt, so I matched tonight. Maybe somebody will pick me up at the bar and actually take me home and not fucking try to do scientific experiments on me. All right, Ilya Moon for $3.33. Check the links Jessica G is sharing. I didn't see them. Send them to me on Discord if you need me to show anything. Irish Demon for $2.99 Aussie. I feel like a pea brain next to these lads. Derp. Yeah. Irish, I told a story earlier because I tried that Carolina Reaper sauce, and sure enough, man, it didn't bother me eating it, but coming out the other end, oh my god. I really think they served me fucking glass shards or some shit in my steak last night. Charlie Welch for $2. That shit's still good, though. Nathan is now pimping his little brother out in California. No fucking way. Links, please, Charlie. I need to see these links. I know what you mean. I know you're probably not talking about legitimately pimping his brother out, but I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's saying Nathan's now having him do all of his flat Earth flyer bidding. hey, go talk to those kids because as of a few months ago, I'm not allowed to get within 60 yards of kids. The Athens 619 for $5. It's not simple trigonometry. It's basic trigonometry. Jessica G, $2. Is that a dingleberry? No, it's it's an ass tier. That's what we're going to call them. They're not dingleberries, they're ass tiers. NANA for $6.66 for Team Skeptics drawing lessons. Hail Satan. I'm putting that 666 towards, we're going to go full sell with you, NANA. We're going to get a degree in 3-hole punching and graphics design for companies so that I can become a teacher of anything physics. A la JM Truth. Christ Puncher for $2 Canadian. This is to buy Team's scrotum drawing. That was not a scrotum drawing, Christ Puncher. That was a drawing of the Earth and Polaris. Ilya Moon for $2 for the egg and sperm drawing. God damn it. Those aren't eggs and sperms. Those are fucking planets and stars and shit.
No, it was clearly testicles. Don't lie.
There weren't 2 of them. I drew a jungle trap the other day. That was pretty funny. Christ Puncher for $5 Canadian. I'll see that $2.50 and bid another $2.50 for Team's Nutsack. Oh shit, people were bidding money on my nutsack out there. Awesome. Jessica G for $2. Good job, team. Your drawing killed the globe. I want y'all to hear this, actually. I want y'all to hear this. Right in my fucking ear. Jackalope Herdmaster for $5. We need Cheshire to do the drawings. On second thought, maybe we shouldn't. Oh yeah, remember guys, she is the one who drew photorealistic boobs in paint and had my stream shut the fuck down for terms of service violations. John Rapp for $2 Aussie. Go easy, guys. He's better with his uneaten crayons. I think that's fucking, you're talking to me, John, you dickweed? Well, you know what, John, here's you. Hello, John. Middle finger. Love you, man. Thank you for the super chat. And yeah, my uneaten crayons, that is no more as of yesterday when I was hungry. Commander Darklight, maybe that's why my fucking poop burns. Commander Darklight for $30.99 Aussie. Aussie.
Oi, 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 oi,
Oi, oi, oi.
God, everybody got it except Keith. Where were you at, bro?
I'm not Aussie. I was letting them do it.
You got it. Everybody answers. That ain't how it works. You got to be an honorary Aussie. Ilya Moon, $2 for the Mind Flayer and Army drawing. Yes. You guys love my drawings. I'm going to have a stream just where I draw artwork, and I'll just send it out to random flat earthers in an email.
Artwork.
Yeah, that's artwork. I put in some fucking work into that art, bro. I'll draw my...
Yes.
I'll do a portrait.
There was a lot of work there. Art, I'm not so sure about.
Yeah. All right, let's see.
Art, I would believe.
Jessica G, this is for the half that shows Team Sextant. This is for the half that show... Where was my sextant at? Oh, my sextant. Okay, I know what a sextant is now. Thank you very much. John Fisher R.net. John Fisher R.net. 2 pounds for the hieroglyphics. They're not fucking hieroglyphics. They're artwork. Jeez, you guys need to freaking be nice. You know I'm super nice. So, Christ Puncher for $2 Canadian. This is for my other super chat. Can I have my money back, please? Yes, you can, Christ Puncher. Next month, I'll give it back to you. John Rapp for $2 Aussie. Don't forget, we see the same moon face and phase. Now, I wanted to bring this up. I totally forgot to bring it up when I saw this super chat come through. How do y'all explain like the different phases of the moon?
That's a good
You know that one,
question,
Rachel? You want me to take that?
You can take that.
It would be, so when you have an eclipse, let's say a solar eclipse, for us that would be the moon being directly over the moon. But then as the moon starts to go forward, since it's doing the 15 degrees and the moon is 13, as it goes further away, that's what causes the moon is always lit up halfway, but we just see different aspects of it.
Okay, the moon is
So-
always lit up. So you do believe that the moon is an actual physical object that's spherical, correct? It's not flat.
Yes.
Okay. So let me
Yes.
explain why this is a problem, and we're gonna go back to this over here. Don't judge me. Okay. So let's just assume right now that you're right, and that here's the moon. Okay. And here's the phase. All this is dark. Oh God. All that's dark. Okay.
Just right quick, team. I can't even see the. I can't see it. Just to let you know.
You can't see it. Let me see.
It's got me stuck on your man Kenny
Remix?
picture. Yeah, it's got me stuck on your man Kenny picture.
Hey, I did not stick you on that. I didn't put you on there. Everybody else can see that I'm not sending my man Keenan picture. He's looking at it on his own. Click refresh
It's
before
all on my screen.
Keith,
click refresh
Keith,
before I send you some pictures to satisfy your
just-
needs.
just quickly check that you haven't been struck blind.
Yeah, right. All right, we're gonna redraw this.
Because
For Keith.
it can have
Shoot, I
it
might
can
have-
have that
oh.
effect on people. Yeah, I'm wondering if you're looking at the YouTube window and your YouTube window paused.
Yeah, that might be it.
No, it's on a mixed call.
Okay, you're on the V.
Okay.
Just hit reconnect. Just refresh the screen, and it should bring you back in with the new one. And I'm drawing a drawing
Okay.
for you right now.
All right.
Now we got people with
Just
really
give me a
This
wheel
is-
circle.
this
Should
is
I go
the
back
point-
to the first link you gave?
Yeah, you should have an open window right now. If you'll just refresh that open window, it should bring you right back in.
So if in your browser, click on the vMix. Just click on the vMix window and then just refresh it. You don't.
So
need
now
to
I got
leave
a
the
blue
call and
screen.
rejoin.
It'll
Here you
it
guys
should
go.
load
I'm
in
getting
a
a blue
second.
screen now.
It should load up in a second.
Okay.
It should load up in a bit, so, and you will see some of the most, deeply emotional, effective artwork it has ever been my pleasure to.
All right, let me know when you're ready.
They still got me stuck, man.
Okay. Look
So
at.
team seems to. You remember that vaguely homosexual volleyball game from Top Gun? Team seems to be drawing that.
No, this is like accurate to science right here. This is accurate to science right here. Okay, well, if you can see the stream, if you can look at the stream, I'll just leave the picture up on the stream for a second. If this was the case, right, you would have each person, see this guy with the really long arms, this guy that's really tall, and that guy with the really awkwardly shaped legs. Each one of these people would see a different phase of the moon, depending upon where they're at. So let's say this is the only moon that exists up here in the middle. Well, from this person's vantage point, he's going to see very much less of it dark. And from this person's vantage point, he's going to see a lot more of it dark and a lot less of it clear. Rachel, you know what I mean right there? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so.
It's hard to not understand with such great and informative artwork.
I'm trying to imagine if that was on a ball though as well, and what it would look like on a ball though.
Oh yeah, no, that's no problem. Hold on, that's not a problem at all.
The thing is that for it's okay. You don't get that problem if the moon's far away, right?
Yeah.
If the moon is far away, then this isn't a problem for either the flat Earth or the globe Earth. But if you're claiming that the moon is local, then this is a problem.
Yeah. So all right. So Rachel,
if you're claiming that it's nearby, yep.
If you look at my my screen, right? This would be what we'd be seeing. Let's say we were at this. Okay, so a lot of people get this wrong, just so you guys know. And it's very common, even in the globe Earth community, for someone who's not very well versed to think that this shadow is physically caused by the Earth on the moon, which is not the case. This shadow is caused because, like Keith said, one half of the moon is always lit, 100% of the time. It's just how much of the percentage of the unlit moon are we seeing? So when you're on Earth and you're down here, even all these people are relatively the same distance away. This is 380,000 kilometers. Okay? Earth is not that big. So this picture is really more like this. You know what I'm saying? Like it's much further away from Earth than Earth has a diameter. So everybody on the Earth is all looking up at the same moon, which is being lit from the sun over here. Okay? So everybody over here is just going to see it. Now, being that they're on the Earth, you see how like one guy right here is going to be slightly in a different orientation than these people up here, and one person over here, oh, his legs are going up. This person over here is going to be same. Well, this is all going to turn out that for relative to these different observers, this moon will actually change in how it looks. It might look like that to one observer, like this to another observer, like this to a third observer. Let's see, we'll go that way. This to a third observer. Now, it's always going to look the same, just slightly rotated, and that's due to your position of the Earth and your relative, you know, how you are relatively looking at the moon. But the reason why it's all the same is because the moon, like Tony said, the moon is very far away, and so is the sun. It's just a consequence of our geometry.
This again, making the moon very far away solves the problem for the flat Earth and the globe Earth, right? Then everybody can expect to see the same faces just rotated. The problem comes if the moon is very low in the sky, if the moon is not thousands of kilometers and many thousands of kilometers away. Then you've got a problem in that people will be seeing different phases at the same time.
And just for everybody
which
out
is not
there,
what is observed.
Mandevil said it was necessary, so I need to go ahead and just give me 1 second to draw some happy trees. We're just going to put a few happy trees right here. These are happy.
Well, those two moons on the right, like, does anybody actually ever see the moon like that with like half the top of it dark? I thought it was always like a banana shape rather than half the top of it dark.
Well, it is a banana shape.
Yeah, but
it's still the same shape. It's just oriented.
It's like a proper banana shape, but yours is more like towards the top, like the top half is dark, but there's like.
Okay, so this shape right here, let's say this one right here, right? It remains that shape. No matter which way I turn it, it still stays the same shape, and this is because this shape right here is a consequence of the sun shining on the moon. See, if this was a three-dimensional sphere, you would only be seeing a portion of the half of the circle, the half of the sphere that's being lit up. So the fact that you're seeing it like this along the Earth is a consequence of the Earth being a globe. If it wasn't a globe, you would see it like my other artwork showed it, where it would just be one person on one side. Let's say, I got to go to blue for this one. Again, so let's say that the moon was lit up on one side and you had one person here. Well, by definition, if it's lit up on this side, it's dark on this side. So a person over here on the flat Earth would not be seeing a full moon. They'd be seeing be seeing a new moon. Or not,
but if it was further away, wouldn't that be the same moon?
I'm sorry?
If it was a bit further away, like a bit higher, wouldn't that be the same?
No, because you're looking at two opposite.
Even if it was like quite high in the sky.
Oh yeah, for sure. Think about it, like on a flat Earth, right? On a flat Earth, if you've got a person over here and a person over here, and the moon's right here, then this person's going to be seeing this side of the moon. This person's going to be seeing this side of the moon.
If you imagine it was up in the sky, like imagine that one that you just drew, and that circle's high up, they'd be looking at the bottom of the moon almost, so they'd still be looking at the same side.
But it wouldn't be the same though. So like let's say you were over here and you saw just a sliver of shadow, right? So most of the brightened moon is on this side over here. Well, to this guy, he wouldn't see the same brightened area as you. He's not going to see 100% because obviously you're not looking like this at a ball. You're looking at like this at a ball. But think about it. On the ball right here where this person can see this area. Oh, wait, you can't see me. Hold on, let me. I'm doing some hand gestures and shit. So on a ball, when you have Dwight Schrute, he's looking at this up here. He sees this half, right? He sees this half. Now, if there was somebody looking over here, they'd see this half. Now, there is a small triangle that overlaps like that, but they would still be seeing two completely different phases of the moon. Dwight would see one from his perspective, the other person would see the other from their perspective, but in reality, everybody on Earth sees the same phase of the moon. And these are hashtag facts.
I'm almost certain that Sean Huffett has a video demonstration of this principle. Would I be correct in that assumption?
Sean, are you there? Your silence is consent.
Take that as an...
Your silence is consent, Sean. We're about to play your video. He's not muted, I don't think. Let me make sure I don't have him muted. I am prone to muting people on accident. No, he's not muted. He must have left. Okay, we'll keep going. I'm sure this won't be the last time that we have them on, and we'll save something juicy for him next time. John Rapp for $2 for new crayons. Don't eat them all at once this time, Team Skeptic. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I'll try not to do it. But I can't promise anything when I'm fucking hungry, though, John. You should know this by now. The Athens 619s. Go see a doctor if the bulge lasts longer than 4 hours. And, Tony, you were absolutely right, because I used to take that same position as that. Let me pull up my artwork again, and I want to show. I'm just going to make this a quick one, because this does need to be brought up. There's a lot of people that don't understand this concept. And this, Rachel, you should see so you can understand what we're talking about too. Here's what a lot of flat earthers think is happening. You have a land, and then like at the beach, you have one end, there's a beach here, one end, there's a beach here, and a bulge of water should come up, curve over, and go down. Now that's not how it works. Okay, so if we draw the globe up here and we draw it from here, you, like Tony said, you always have to assume from this point. So the Earth, in any direction that you look, this way, this way, this way, or that way, is going to be falling away from you. So you should never see a bulge. Now, why people say you should see a bulge is because the Earth is round. All right, and if you have a person, let's say, who's up here, and you have a person over here, well, if they look along the horizon, they're not going to see each other, right? I mean, that's not, that they just, their lines of sight are crossing each other. They're not reaching each other. So for them to see each other, they have to look at each other. And for them to look at each other means that they have to look to form a direct line of sight, like a direct line from one point on the surface to the next would have to cut through, oh shit, hit the camera, would have to cut through the Earth. And that's what they're saying about the bulge, is they misrepresent what they're actually trying to say by saying, I should see this huge bulge coming out of the land getting in my way, but that's not the case. You're looking down into the ground. So for this person right here to make this observation, he would not look along the horizon. He would look into the ground to get his line of sight. And that's where they come up with the bulge. And I just wanted to clarify that a bit, because Tony nailed it when he said that it's not, you know, they're misusing the word. Yes, they know it. They don't know what they're talking about. They do have a point. They are trying to make a point that's valid, but they don't know what they're talking about. You should never talk about bulge. You know, how much of a bulge should come out of the water. You don't talk about that, because then you have to talk about your direct line of sight and what angle at which, you know, you're looking down at and off of the horizon and all that bullshit.
Yeah. You only talk about the missing bulge when we're talking about Team Skeptic wearing his mankini.
Excuse me, sir, but the bulge, that's there. If there was no bulge there, there would not have been a Team Skeptic mankini picture to begin with. That's just fact. All right.
Yeah, what's that, 2 socks, 3?
No, just one meat tube, bro. You know how I rock. The plot hole for $2. You mean Reaper Squeezins made a comeback? Oh, man. Plot hole. They didn't make a comeback. Made a fucking shit burning back. God damn it. I thought my fucking spine was on fire. Frankie Fish became a new fucking member. Thank you so much, Frankie Fish. I appreciate it. Let me share my my emojis. And, oh, you know what? We're just going to do a little bit of a dumpster fire emoji and a bunch of Team Skeptic emoji in the bikini, showing off that beautiful package of his. Jaybird Max. Go ahead, Tony.
Jessica G in the comments said, we almost had Rachie and Keith convinced, and then Team Skeptic started drawing.
Oh, they love my drawings. My drawings are on point. Rachie, tell them about my drawings. Are they on point? Yes or no?
The shit, forgive my language.
What? Keith, where you at, man? Come on, bro. Back me up here. My drawings are on point. They deserve to be in the National Museum of Art History. There should be Team Skeptic's moon pics. Jaybird Max for $1.99. Can the gravity detector find oil underground? Tony, I think that's a serious question for you.
That is a serious question, and yes, they can. It's easier. It's easier if there are significant gas deposits associated with them, because that'll lead to a low gravity anomaly. Because oil and gas are less dense than the rocks. So, if you've got an area that you think might be suitable for oil and gas formation, then the low gravity areas are where you're more likely to have oil and gas reservoirs. Yes, gravimetric mineral exploration is used in that regard, but it's the opposite of what I was saying earlier, where I'm more used to it being used to find ore deposits underneath, so iron ore or uranium ore or bauxite or something like that, so something that's heavier than dirt, but you can use it the other way. You can find oil and gas deposits by looking for something where the gravity is low.
Nice. All right, let me get the next one. JL Warren, you keep twisting up my super chats. Do I need to reduce my vocab? JL, you of all fucking people, being the person who drove me home last night, who stopped along the side of the road to help a poor skeptic out who didn't have an alternator for his car. You of all fucking people know what I went through. And then Bellacharge, who I know Bellacharge is in the audience, he can tell you, I was up all night getting today's function down, and it sucks because these people are damn near too good to use what I wanted to use today. We'll talk about it in a second. It will be used tonight on my gaming stream, though, because Tony, you know when I go crazy and I'm like, I'm a goddamn ninja. I'm a fucking ninja. Yep. Wait till you see what I have for you guys tonight. Oh, you are going to fucking love it. Irish Demon says, for $2.99 Aussie, is ours like a Japanese flag? Burnt ring? Yes. I'm definitely pushing the Japanese red dot flag right now on my bum hole. William Gorge, for 10 Aussie dollars, if the Black Swan photograph is proof of a flat Earth, why hasn't it been reproduced every single day? Great fucking question. All right, Jessica G. For every time team draws, a Globe Angels family dies. Oh, poor Angels. Because I'm going to continue to draw. Jessica G. for $2. Sorry, Fight the Flat Earth and Tony. Team is throwing the game. You hear that? God damn it. Throwing the fucking game. Oscar Huereca. Oscar Huereca for $5. No message, but there is another message right here. And now I was going to tell you to send your message in so I could read it. And then after reading the next one, no, you lose your message, bro. Looks like team needs to take an art class with the other 5-year-olds. What the fuck, Oscar? By the way, Oscar, if you do have another super chat that you would like to say, it's almost an hour later, I think. So if you have something different you'd like to harass me with, please, by all means, share now and tag me. I'm watching at the chat.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Commander Darklight, I'll go back and read that. How did I not read your super chat? Oscar Huereca for the win became a member of Team Skeptic, or the Team Skeptic channel membership. All right, let me go make sure I get this shit right and give you the right emojis. Mankinis. Fucking 4-star general that, 4-star Boy Scout general. Keith, have you ever done any service in the military?
Yes.
Oh, you have? Good deal. A bunch of us are ex-military. What branch?
Oh, okay. I was military. Army.
Army, nice. So yeah, we've got a bunch of people who are in the military that are here. But I don't remember why I was going to ask you that. But that's awesome to know that you're in the military as well. Army, unfortunately, that's why you're a flat earther. If you were in Navy or Air Force, you would have definitely been.
Completely Yeah. You think your artwork is great and he's the delusional one. Is that what we're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. He's delusional. My artwork is A1. Pentalica for Pentalica for $5. Team, for the love of God, use the 2D and 3D shapes. They're free. 2D has a straight line option. I don't know how to use fucking paint. When you're born with the talent that I have, you don't follow directions. You just grab brushes and make art. All right, let me go back here.
I'm going to say, Rachie, and Keith, the points the team was trying to make are a lot easier to follow if you actually have access to a diagram that is circular rather than potato shaped or whatever the hell he was drawing there. So yeah, just try looking it up in some books, and they'll have some diagrams that are actually comprehensible for you.
If you can't understand what the fuck I was saying, you need to wear glasses, okay? Or maybe I was just speaking too brightly. I was just speaking too brightly for you guys. Commander Darklight for $30.99 Aussie. You know what it was, Commander Darklight? I saw the $30.99. I saw the Aussie, and I Aussied, and they oid. So I apologize, and I almost missed your super chat again because I was explaining myself instead of reading it. Not only a science lesson, but an art lesson too? What a great fucking show. Abso-fucking-lutely. You're 100% right, Commander Darklight. Great fucking show by a great fucking YouTube artist. I'm going to shut down fucking debunking shit. I'm just going to go straight to art. Julian Lizell, $4.99 pounds. Flat Earth theory is like perineum. Many are not aware of its existence, but once you Googled it, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. Why did I do that? Okay. Going into my future search real quick. I'm not going to.
The perineum is what you would call the taint.
Oh, my jungle trap. Yeah, I call it the jungle trap.
Okay.
I drew a picture of it the other day. It's right between the balls in the butthole. The butthole was looking at like your
Mankini anchor point.
The Mankini anchor point. The only place in the universe where entropy does not increase. Oh. Let's see. Oliver Ekstrand for 26. I thought I sucked at drawing. Then I saw Team Skeptic. Yeah, you did. Now I'm going to motivate you to go back to college and get that art degree, aren't I?
Yeah. I just want to clarify, just because you can draw better than Team doesn't mean you don't suck at drawing.
No, I mean, I'm great, so yeah, you're good too. The Athens 619 for $5. Team's art belongs with Nathan's Flyers in the trash. What? How can you subjectively or objectively say that my art belongs with that piece of shit's fucking bullshit lies? I'm hurt, Athens. I'm hurt! Alright, Oscar Huereca. Thanks for being one of the only people to actually pronounce my last name correctly. Well, it might have helped that I was in an all-Hispanic fraternity and that I have family from Argentina. But Oscar, gracias. Gracias, amigo. I was going to say something else, but I don't want to sound stupid. So I'll stop with the sounding stupid part because my artwork apparently speaks for me already. Julian Lazell, do you really think your artwork is fridge-worthy? How come these people are so goddamn fixated on my fucking artwork? Yes, it's fridge-worthy. Are you kidding me? Amazing? If I could afford a fridge, I'd put it up there, but I can't. Gotta buy a fucking alternator for my car. JL12781L. What up, team? I was a Navy CB in NMCB 1, NMCB 1, 2008 to 2012. My rate was CM3 SCW, 2 deployments, 1 Okinawa, 2 Kandahar, or Kandahar, however you want to say it. That's awesome, man. I'm so glad to know that I think, let me check something real quick. Can't remember. I think you became a member the other day, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. What were you going to say, Tony?
Yeah. Well, I am an academic. I've always been an academic, and so I've led a very sheltered existence. But I just want to acknowledge the work that veterans and members of the armed forces put into keeping us safe, and they don't generally get the recognition and support that they richly deserve. So, thank you everybody who has ever been in the armed forces, and yeah, full respect.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I did it because I felt a duty to my country. So I feel like it was me doing what I had to do. Nobody really needed to thank me for it. I've never asked for thanks from anybody else because I don't feel like I wish there would be more people that would volunteer their time to understand what exactly we're out here screaming and fighting about in these streets. Without understanding that from a perspective of serving in the armed forces or serving your country in some kind of civil service, it's really hard to put yourselves in the shoes of anybody else that's out there.
Yeah.
All right, Robert Williams for $4.99. Navy versus Army. The Royal Navy settled into a nautical mile, going with the distance between an arc second and latitude lines. Army said, meh, close enough. Yeah, that's damn straight, right? And then our last one, Robert. Oh, he says dope arc minutes, and I do have something for that.
Yeah, I was about to correct him.
I do have something for you on that. Oh, let me make sure I'm playing the right one, and then that's it. Will somebody please share? No! Did y'all hear that? Oh, please tell me y'all heard that.
Yes.
Okay, good fucking deal. And then you're gonna hear yourself too. My bad, I turned you off. All right. If people will please share my Team Skeptic After Dark. Oh yeah, arc minutes or arc second. Wait, yeah. Oh, arc minutes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Robert Williams. I appreciate it. For all of you out there that were in the Army, I'm so very, very sorry for your bad choices, your bad life choices. Too bad you can't go back and be a Navy or Marine, but at least, or Navy or Air Force, but at least you weren't a Marine. And that's what I have to say. I love all my armed services, of course. I give them all. Hey, anybody in the armed service knows what the fuck I'm doing here. I'm doing my goddamn right and my duty to give shit to the other people in the other services, just like they do to me. I was in the Navy, the second fucking softest fucking service you could get into, be above the Air Force. So they can't. I can pick on Air Force. They can pick on me, but Air Force can't pick on anybody. Air Force just sits back there with their degrees, doing calculations, being the true nerds of the whole of the armed service. But we love them too. Now we're gonna close this out tonight. Rachie, do you have anything you would like to add before we get out of here?
I'd like to ask which way the Earth rotates. I mean, I know it's meant to be east to west, but I have heard people say that it actually rotates in 3 different directions, like a plane with pitch, roll, and yaw, is it? Something like that?
Well, any 3D, any sphere that's rotating is going to have 3 axes of rotation. You know,
okay, but I don't understand why.
Rotating, it would just be, you know, one direction. But because it's a sphere, you do have your yaw, pitch, and your roll that a gyroscope would pick up.
Yeah. Generally, it's like the primary things so it's rotating towards the east, right? So if you looked from down on it from the North Pole, it would be going anti-clockwise, right? And so it's moving towards the sun, and that's why the sun appears to rise. Now that's the primary thing, but there's also motion around the sun, and there's also perturbations like the Chandler wobble, tidal oscillations, and a couple of other things going on that sort of add different subtleties to it. If you want to sort of check up on this, there's a thing called the Romy experiment, ROMY, in Germany, where they've got some very large ring lasers that they're using to locate Earth's pole of rotation. Accurate, I think, to a centimeter. That's the accuracy they're trying to get, and that pole of rotation actually moves through time. It changes in response to earthquakes. If there's a large enough earthquake, the length of day changes by just a little bit, because you've changed the distribution of mass around the Earth. So there are lots of subtle, tiny effects that mostly you won't notice. Mostly the dominant feature is just that simple spin around that offset axis, but there are sort of other complications to that, but they're small.
Okay. It was just that confusing how the stars went round in a circle if we were spinning in 3 different directions, but I understand what you're saying there.
Yeah.
All right. Diabetic war slug for $5. As a former Marine, Keith, you're making the Marines seem like a smart branch by being a flat earther. And damn, that's saying something. So even he agrees that the Marines are just not all there in the head. But no, I'm giving them, like I said, I give every service a hard time because I was Navy, and that's just how we roll. Yep. Keith, you wanna respond? Keith, you wanna give him shit back?
Nah, I'll leave it.
No. Why would he care? Why would he care what a Marine thinks?
All right. Did you change toilet paper? Did you clean like the head in the fucking army? Was that your job? I'm just giving you a hard time. All right, JL 12781L, number 1 quote from the Air Force. What was your boot camp sleep number? Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so look, here's what I did. Here's what I did, guys. I learned how to do instant replays. So, I told you guys from at the beginning, this was a no-fail stream. Okay, we already had a fail earlier with YouTube. It wasn't my fault. This is no-fail stream moving forward from here. So what I learned how to do was take instantaneous instant replay clips, put them together so that at the end of the show, I can end stuff on the funniest and stupidest, weirdest, whatever the case may be, things that were said during the show. Now, Keith and Rachie were both wonderful people tonight. Oh, wait. I didn't even finish going through my outros. Keith, do you have anything to say before we get the fuck out of here?
No, you good.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for coming on. We look forward to having you the next time as well. Fight.
Yeah,
do you
cheers,
have
Keith.
anything
Cool.
to say? Anything you want to announce coming
no,
up?
it's been fun.
Yeah, I had a great
It's
time
been fun tonight. Tomorrow, I've got a double header. I've got 2 flat earthers coming on, starting from 11 p.m. UK time. I've got one guy on for 2 hours, and I've got another guy straight on after that. So tomorrow is going to be a lot of stupid.
All right. Oh, excuse me.
And I'm getting my PC upgrades tomorrow. Woo!
Yeah, no more hamsters ruining live streams for us, right? All right.
Yeah.
Tony, outside of doing the most immaculate mannequin challenge earlier that I've ever seen anyone do, do you have anything to add before we head over to the gaming channel and start making fun of me?
I just want to say that Rach and Keith came here with a really good attitude, and they were a pleasure to talk to. And if they have any questions, they should feel free to come back anytime. Always happy to sort of, they came here with intellectual honesty and genuine, really quite well thought out questions. So I encourage them to, read up on the stuff that we said, and if they have any questions, just come back. It's fine.
Yeah, come back anytime.
And I hope if I did or said anything to make anybody feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry. Except of course for team, sorry.
Oh,
who
yeah.
I absolutely intended. Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, Keith and Rachel, y'all have permission to say anything fucked up you want to say about me. I've got that. You hear how my subscribers do it. I have fucking thick skin. Micro Raptor for 59 secs. Have some money, you awesome nerds. Yes, thank you. See, that's not even insulting to me. I love being called a nerd. It means that people are paying attention. When you call me a nerd, I know you're paying attention to me. All right, so that's it for tonight. No fail stream coming up, guys. Right here, we're gonna play this fucking. What we're gonna do is we're gonna simply play these highlight clips that I made from tonight. They're just different people talking. Let me make sure that there's no music. Yep, no music's gonna play. And if all goes well, then the stream will end after the clips. Y'all have a great night. Or oil. Or anything of where value is determined by weight, you know, you're really going to you need to know the.
Worked perfectly. That was just seamless.
Failed.
No, it's fucked up. It's fucking up. It's not playing like normal speed. You take them into account. There we go.
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, do you guys follow the argument of the Shahelian Experiment? Do you see what was going on there, or do you have a major issue with it?
Well, I have a bit of an issue with it because mass doesn't actually attract mass, does it?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. I was.
Those 10 tensor equations can go down to Newton's law of gravitational attraction. They are the same.
Yeah. Now, Keith, you've been kind of quiet over there. What do you have to offer to this conversation about gravity? What do you think gravity is?
Okay, let me go ahead and throw it out there. I know you're going to say no, but is it possible that mass does attract mass, but the world is still flat?
No.
I would gravity heal. It's the other observations that they've got to be more concerned about. Like the elevation. Well, Rachie hasn't
Sorry, Rachie, go on.
I was going to say, because obviously without gravity, you can't be stuck to an underside of a ball kind of thing.
Right.
Well, absolutely, gravity is what.
All right, guys, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leave the kids on giving.
Guys, mystery solved.
When it comes to Santa, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
But it's aliens.
So, I just wanted to pick up on what Team was saying. Or, I am trying to be as accurate as I can, but follow it up yourselves. That's key to this process. So yeah.
Hey team.
You want to stay on that, Rachie, or you got something else?
Too in the chat says that you would know aliens. You sniff out your own.
Yes. All right. Now, what did you want to say there, Keith? I'm sorry. What did you have to say?
I was just going to say, did Rachie have another question about this? Want to move on to another subject?
No, I think I need to look into it more, to be honest, about the mass attracting mass. It'd be nice if there was some experiments showing that, which wasn't like, even though some objects they use aren't magnetic, you can still create a magnetic flux, can't you? So you can still make them kind of magnetic, even though they're not magnetic with the I forget what the actual name is called now.
Well, hold on. Let me address that because I know exactly what she's talking about. You're talking.